Welcome to West of Tulsa. I'm CJ Ward. We are broadcasting right off the 101 freeway in Ventura, California. Thank you for listening, watching. I'm going to take care of some homework first. Like, follow, subscribe. Are we doing the subscribe button, by the way?
I don't know. I haven't edited those shows yet,
Well,
so I think Gabe's going to give me Gabe's going to give me a subscribe button, or we'll put something in there. So yeah.
All right. And we also have the westofTulsa.com. Go to our website, click on the tip line page, fill it out, send it in, find out. We want to know what you want to talk about. I mean, if you're talking about the wrong stuff, you got something interesting, great story.
You want to tell us we don't know what the hell we're talking
about?
We love that.
Most of the time, we have no clue.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, correct us when we're wrong. A few people have already, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
And if you've contacted us and we haven't got back to you yet, hold on, we will get to you. I promise. All right. Is that enough of the homework?
I think that's enough of the homework.
All right. Good. All right. Packed house today. This is exciting. I even need notes, because there's so many people here I haven't met yet. Just met them for the first time, so this is super exciting. Everything is Porsche today. So if we mention another maker model, that just by coincidence, pay no attention to that. This is all about Porsches, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Exactly. All right. Dan's in charge of all the buttons. There he is right there.
I'm in charge. I'm just letting these ladies do what they want to talk about.
This is all because of Dan.
It is because of Dan. He put this one together.
Yes,
organizing a little party.
Yeah.
A little Porsche party.
And it was Dan's decision to kick Gabe out, so Gabe's not here today. We had no room for Gabe, actually. But Beth is back.
Yay. Nice to be back.
Welcome back.
No, this is a great group.
It is a great
This
group.
is awesome.
Yeah. And we have the Porsche gals. Porsche ladies.
Porsche women. I like Porsche ladies.
Have you come up with like a name yet?
Just Porsche people.
Porsche posse, something like that? No?
Porsche posse.
There you go. We'll come up with a cool name.
Passionate Porsche
Posse.
posse.
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll come up with something cool by the end of the show. But Beth is actually part of the group. She drives the 911.
Well, every now and then. I'm just along for the ride. This is my slogan,
That's your
right?
slogan.
But I'm honored to be here with all of you ladies, and I can't wait to hear all the things that you want to share about your Porsche. They're beautiful. Caught you driving up, all of you.
We got a parking lot full of Porsches right now.
It's
we
awesome.
love it. So Brenda Rippee, back.
Yes,
returning guest.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I gotta go to my notes now. I'm gonna make sure I get Brenda's right. So, TV makeup artist.
Yes.
With HBO included.
Yes.
All right. And Porsche speed enthusiast.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. The
She
faster
came
the better.
peeling into the parking lot today. We knew exactly it was Brenda. What color is your Porsche, by the way?
She is a spicy papaya metallic.
Ew, it shines in the light. It's
She's
beautiful.
so pretty. So
And she
It
has
is.
a name.
I named her Charo because Charo the spicy.
Yeah, very apropos.
Gucci.
That makes sense.
Her name
All
is
right.
Charo.
All right.
Yes. I love that.
Okay, and then we're going to start to my left here. We got Martina Kwan. Thanks
Hello.
for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We just met for the first time. So you have a really interesting background. I had to abbreviate your bio here because you've done so many crazy things. So we'll talk more in detail, but I'm just going to introduce you right away.
She's done so many great things. Let me just rephrase
did I
that.
say?
You said crazy things. And maybe you've done some crazy
Crazy.
things, but really cool
but
things.
when you put it all together, it's like, how did she go from this to this to this to this, right?
Yes.
Okay. And they're good things, too, by the way. I was not. So, I know. See,
What
that's
were
why
you
she's here is to correct
insinuating,
me,
CJ?
right?
What were
That's
you
right.
insinuating?
I don't know. What was I saying? Okay, so accounting, right? Accounting background. See, that's pretty crazy right there. Owns a racing school. Which racing school is it? by the way?
DK Racing School.
DK Racing.
The
Okay.
best one.
You've lived all over the world.
Pretty much.
3-time racing champion. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Told you it was crazy. That's crazy from accounting to racing champion. That's why I say crazy. Lara Newton joining us.
Yep.
Most people would know you as That Porsche Girl.
Yes.
So you got a website, thatporschegirl.com. You've
Yep.
got the Instagram account
Yep.
and huge amount of followers.
Yeah.
We're all jealous here, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Someday we hope to aspire
We
to.
aspire
right?
to be
That's
half
it.
of what
Exactly.
Lara has. Yes.
Well,
And,
you're going to get all the wrinkles on your neck. For me.
As a precision driving
Yep.
in films.
Yep. Doubling actresses and...
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not quite body double. Not quite, or is it
No.
kind of?
I
Sort
had
of
done that too, but not. I had actually been asked to do Julia Roberts' nudity at one point, and I said no. Somebody will do mine someday. So, so I was better off doubling them. And if they didn't, like Mary Louise Parker, I doubled her because she didn't have a license, things like that. Sometimes there's a child in the car, so I'm the driver for, just to make sure that it's safe. And sometimes I do commercials where it's car to car, and we're very close to the camera, so they have to have somebody who's a skilled driver.
So you watch certain movies and go, "That's me."
Yeah.
Now, do you
And they're like,
do
yeah,
stunt
sure.
driving, Laura, or strictly just this precision driving?
I would
we'll
say Martina's closer to that. She's terrifying to drive. No, it's just really precision where it's just I don't bump into things, like cameras and things like that. But it's really kind of a skill of trusting the other driver as well. So when you're going at a certain pace, you got to keep that pace because you may hit the camera guy. So it's kind of a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
That never goes over well in Hollywood when you run over the camera guy, right, Dan?
I'm a professional pacer.
I worked on a show called Prison Break, which many people probably don't remember.
I was with you on that.
Well, I did some. This was in Morocco, though. Did you? I don't.
Nope.
Yeah, this was in Morocco, and I ended up as a camera person in the back of an SUV, getting away from the bad guys with like mortars going off. Earth, whatever it is, the earthware mortars and stuff. All the dust going up in the air, and it's pretty wild. That's why I was curious about precision driving versus stunt driving. I know there's
stunt driving is just another level of talent that is even I just used to love to watch the stunt drivers because they're so insane. And I've seen guys, I saw a guy broke his back because he launched over a thing and hit an embankment. So it's really stunt guys are beat up a lot.
High
so
risk.
It's
Definitely
very
high risk.
Yeah.
Dare I use the word crazy?
Crazy.
I think you can use crazy.
In this case, yeah.
Full
That's
circle
okay.
moment.
That's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay. Yeah.
All right. Lastly, we have Dilun Wu.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Active PCA member. You're the social chair for the LA chapter right now, right?
Yes, I am.
All right. And then you've got, I'm going with the crazy theme here, but dog toys.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that because I did a little Google search and up popped dog toys and I'm going, it can't be her.
Out of fire hoses?
In a fire hose. So talk about that a little bit. What is that?
Yeah, so we have a 5-year-old chocolate lab, and it all started with him because he's super tough on the toys. And we came across an opportunity where one of our friends' dad was a fire chief at a local fire department, and he said, hey, we're just throwing out the decommissioned fire hose into the trash and, into the landfill. If there's any way you guys could recycle them, that would be great. And we're like, okay, well, let's see what we could do. We love to solve problems. And this would be a great way for Rocky to have many, many indestructible dog toys. So we figure out a way to clean them, to make them into dog toys. And we started making them in our basement. So
you sell them then?
We sell them, and then we fund them for our operation and donate them to local animal shelters.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That is awesome.
So we've partnered with SPCA nationally to donate over 1,000 toys so far to local animal shelters.
And close to destructible, or do they still eventually?
Close to,
right.
for sure.
'Cause we've had labs, so we know it.
Yeah, for sure. Are they sections of the fire hose, or do you kind of repurpose them and mold them over the shape of something?
That's a great question. Our goal is to use every inch of the decommissioned fire hose. Wow. So, for example, we've received donations from local fire departments with their 5-inch, the big rubber yellow hose, right? And we made them into different toys, chew toys, tug-of-war toys. Wow. So anything that we can get our hands on, and we'll make them into something. The purpose is to reuse them and not put them into a landfill.
Do you deliver these with your beautiful Porsche? It's your delivery truck.
Fire
Someday.
hoses sticking out the windows.
That's awesome.
That's a great idea.
Put a dog bone on top of your car.
Or
Yeah.
the delivery.
And if we do hear any barking, he's here. He, she, he's here.
Yep,
Yeah.
he's here.
So if we
He's
hear
hanging.
a bark, all right.
If you hear a bark off camera, that is Dylan's dog saying hi.
Rocky, right?
Rocky.
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 All
Yep.
right. All right.
Cool.
So we mentioned it, but I forgot to ask. What did you drive here?
Oh, I drove a 2024 base model Macan, but she's definitely not base.
Yeah. No,
She's
we know
pretty.
you
So
pulled up.
based.
Yeah.
She's so based.
Yeah.
With the papaya seatbelts, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the orange
Beautiful.
seatbelts, the orange trim. Beautiful.
Everything matches.
Everything matches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
nice.
matches my hair.
Yeah, it's all
You can't
one.
even see her when
It's
she's
all
in the car.
spicy fire, Dylan will send me pictures like, "Hey, are you driving? Is this you right now?" And I'm like, "No, I'm on set." And she's like, "Oh, there's one more out here like you." I'm like, foiled.
You didn't drive the Porsche.
Don't ask me what I
911.
drove.
Okay, I want to
No,
ask
it's
you that.
embarrassing. Okay,
This
let's
is a
move
Porsche
on.
show, so
Let's
we won't
move on.
talk about that. All right. What'd you drive here?
I drove my Cayenne S.
Nice.
It has a beautiful sound.
Oh.
Tell us about that. It's different than other Porsches.
That's so interesting. Compared to my race car, it's so quiet, in my opinion. So, but it's a great car. You can really drive fast and evade being caught. Whereas if you drive a car like a GT3 RS or a 911, you attract more attention. So I love this car.
You go under the radar.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Under the
Okay.
radar.
Go under the
Okay.
radar.
Yeah,
all right.
love the car.
Okay. It
For
has a
street
beautiful,
driving.
it has a tone to it, is what I was getting at.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Compared to the 911, I don't hear it, but that's interesting.
Does anybody else
Compared
hear
to a
it?
Corolla,
There is- I
definitely.
I heard it.
fan was,
I
the
did
fan
you
was
really?
on.
A little
The
rumble.
fan was running when you were.
Interesting.
Oh.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was the fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't hear that with my Acura.
She was probably
I'm just
pushing
gonna
it
say
pretty
that.
hard.
If anybody would know, it's Lara would know exactly what the sound was.
Exactly.
It came in the fans going. I'm like, she's been speeding.
Oh, is that what happens? It kicks in at a certain
I
point?
guess. I don't know. It was going.
If you
pretty
evade the
hard.
police, does it kick on? Is that what happens?
Probably.
All right.
It was a cool sound.
a cool
and it's
sound.
beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Lara, what did you drive?
The most unsexy car, but it's a lovely car. It's the 2025 Cayenne E hybrid. The fleet for Porsche, they lent it to me today to try out and
Do a review.
kind of check it out. And they drop them off at my house, and I just drive them and put the miles. I didn't drive one of the good cars because it's kind of far from me. So it's 2.5
You drove
hours.
up away. And we
Yeah.
should say we're taping this on Labor Day weekend. So
Yeah.
you dealt with the Labor Day weekend traffic coming up.
Yeah, 2.5 hours drive. But so I was
Wow.
like, "There's no way I'm taking the classic. I'll be dripping when I get there."
Just to say it again, we really appreciate you guys coming up.
100%.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We know that drive
Thank
is
you.
brutal,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
from the South Bay,
Oh, it's
right?
fine.
It's just like, oof.
Yeah, and the old one you have that you didn't drive,
Is 1969 911T.
T.
And
What-
then also a 1982 930 Turbo.
What color green is that?
We called it Lee Green because my boyfriend is actually a colorist for comic books, and he stirred the color and made it, I wanted a gray green, and it ended up being a lot more green. He's like, "You're going to love it." And I didn't at first, but then with the black accents and everything, it's gotten a lot of attention.
I like it.
Oh, it's
I like
beautiful.
it.
Yeah,
It's a nice
so
color.
beautiful.
You love it or you hate it. So
It's almost like a period color.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very close to what
Yeah.
an old period color would be for late 60s, early 70 car.
yeah, and it kind of it's like old 70s carpet.
Or refrigerator.
Refrigerator,
Yeah,
yeah,
like an
yeah.
avocado refrigerator or something like that.
Wow.
You don't see many
Yeah.
of them, that's for
No.
sure.
No, yeah.
but
I really thought
like
that
it.
was a stock color because it
Yeah.
looks so period.
Yeah.
No, Porsche
Wow.
AG has called me to ask me if I could share the color code, and we're like, no.
Really?
But somebody copied exactly. It's on a 912 somewhere in like South Korea or Indonesia somewhere. But I thought it was an AI version of my car. I was like, something's different, but it's almost exactly the same color, the same wheels, the same everything. So they've completely copied my car.
Wow.
Did you call up and yell at him or anything?
No, it was
You
like
gotta
it's
find 'em.
flat. Luckily, they don't live in this country because I'd run them off the road.
Oh, there you go.
Dylan, what did you drive here?
I have a 2017 718 Cayman S in Miami Blue.
Yeah. And it's not just a regular, speaking of sounds, when you pulled up, we knew you had done something to it.
Thank you.
So what'd you do to give it that kind of a
Throaty rumble.
throaty
We were
rumble?
calling it
Yeah.
a feminine roar.
I
weren't
called
we,
it.
Brenda?
I said it's like a panther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Before I bought the car, I was talking to my boyfriend at the time, fiance now, soon to be husband. I was like, hey, I'm getting this car, but I want to mod it. So what can I do? So we collectively did some research. I was like, I want it loud. I don't want it to be stock. So I ended up doing a. Wait, actually, we're in California. I don't want to.
Uh-oh.
No,
No, you did
We'll
it in
erase that.
Mexico.
she did it legal.
Well,
Whatever
well,
it is, we should.
I can put it. I can put a piece over
she doesn't
that.
have
I'll put a
California
piece
plates,
over that, Dylan.
Anyways, yeah,
Is anybody from California here?
All out of state plates, right?
Yep, Florida plate,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania plate,
Yeah.
California plate. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, California too. Yeah.
And you're probably the fastest one of the whole group, right?
Oh,
And she's got a California plate on.
yeah.
See, I just opened up a question here, and it was like, no, I'm faster.
She is the fastest
She is the
one.
okay, there's no
She is,
debate on that
but
one.
there's
I
no
would say there
debate.
is no debate.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Zero.
I don't know about you, but she's really fast.
What's the fastest each of you has gone in a Porsche?
And it doesn't have to be legal.
In Mexico, we always say Mexico.
Mexico, yes,
Mexico.
in Mexico.
Well, on a racetrack, it's obviously legal and different. So 180 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
In
she's
what?
the
What were you
fastest one.
driving it?
A Celine
Okay.
S1.
Oh, okay. Nice. Who wants to go next? Who wants to admit?
I'll admit,
Okay, there you
because
go.
I like going fast, and 142.
Wow.
Nice.
On a track?
That's fast.
No.
No. Okay. It was an open road and
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an open road. And 718 Boxster, 2021.
Good. Anybody else? Anybody else want to cop to anything? Or
129 on
Wow.
the track.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm right around that, like in the 120s. I'm not really that fast. But I did it in my 997. I've done it in pretty much every car around 120. It's kind of like where I feel comfortable,
Yeah.
and especially on regular roads. But yeah, or in the like 125 area.
Well, I'll say this. I did in our 87 convertible, 110, 115 maybe. And I thought, oh, man, I wonder if this has any more. And I gave it just a little tap. And it's like, still took off. And I'm like, oh, man. My heart started pumping. I said, that was it. So that's the
And it was
fastest
not
I've
on
done.
a track, so you were trying
No,
to
it was not
be
on the
careful.
track. No.
It's a
Coming-
big jump from 120 to 140 to
Yeah.
like I've gone in a car at 140 and it's a big jump, and 180 is unthinkable. But
Yeah.
then again,
Warp speed.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, as a female, what was it about Porsches that just grabbed you and you knew that this was the car for you?
Oh my God. I mean, it took me a long time to finally be able to afford it, but I think ever since I was a child, I just really loved the look of it. I'm half German, so Porsche is one of, my favorite cars until I was able to afford it in my 40s.
So it's
the
in your
blood.
DNA
It is
to
in
some
your
extent.
DNA.
Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, amazing car.
But I think you had, correct me if I'm wrong, Martina. I read something that you decided one day, just F it, I'm going to get one. Kids can fit in the back.
Yeah.
And I'm going through a divorce. I'm just doing this.
Yeah,
right?
this was before the divorce, but yeah, in 2011 in Miami, I said, the kids, they're still in elementary school, they'll fit in the back.
Yeah.
And they fit in the back for a while. Yeah.
There's some
I
leg
love
room.
it. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I love that story because it's just like, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't think about it. Don't wait. Just do it.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to bring up something. The day that I spent with Dilun and Brenda up at Good Vibes Breakfast Club, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was
Yeah.
called?
Good times.
I noticed, at least with Brenda, well, Dilun too, there's definitely a thing about Porsches and women and colors that I haven't experienced in other lines of cars, even Ferrari, even exotics and so on. And can you guys talk about that? Like, what's your opinion? I mean, we talked about Lara's car. That's a special color.
Yeah.
And Dylan's car gets a lot of attention because of the color Miami blue. And I just wanted to know, like Martina and Beth, if you guys could chime in on what's this thing about Porsche and women and the colors? Because we talked about the Skittles, right, Brenda?
Yeah.
The Skittles is the
Yeah.
thing, right? So what's been your experience with that, ladies?
I think it takes a certain confidence to drive a Porsche, especially as a woman. And I'm so pleased to see so many women here in Southern California, especially, drive them. So if you're confident, you might as well be confident in the color as well. Although personally, I like black cars.
Okay, well, black's
Yeah.
sort of a color, I guess. How about you, Lara?
I forgot the question.
Oh, we were just what the connection with women and the wild colors.
I think it's funny because, it is kind of a female thing that they want to accessorize a little bit. It's so going, and I'm noticing that Porsche is really leaning into it too, as far as like the purples and the pinks and all that stuff. And I actually try to steer away from pinks and purples for some reason. I think it's just because, but there's a lot of love with like the ruby
Ruby Star.
Ruby Star
Ruby
and all
Star,
that
yeah.
stuff. I just, for some reason, I always, and it's maybe my own problem with gender stuff. I just don't want to put myself in a pink car and then.
I don't want to be a girly girl,
yeah,
right?
I
It's
think that we need to be just Porsche people and people who, there are a lot of guys that don't like cars. There's a lot of girls that love cars. And so I wish it was more tailored toward us, all of the car ads and stuff. It's even when they use a woman, it's usually sexuality or they just they don't do it well. They're not marketing toward women who are all breadwinners. We're all here breadwinners, and I think that's what I really want to move into, from away from Instagram and all that, and be more involved with marketing toward women, that we're a part of this world, and there's half of the buying public, and we're really overlooked in that way. So if color brings women in, I'm really happy about that, and it seems to be. It seems like a lot of women are really gravitating the colors, and so I think maybe that's a strategy on their part.
Yeah, good marketing
Yeah, and
strategy.
with Porsche, historically, you go back, especially if you go back into the 70s, they liked those colors. And then they kind of got out of it, and now they're kind of coming back to it again. And if you're buying, especially the older Porsches, if you can find a factory color or paint to sample, value skyrockets instantly.
Well,
with
and
those
I
crazy
think it's a
colors.
product differentiator in the sense of, if you look at Ferraris and Lambos, you look at other contemporaries of Porsches to an extent, right? I mean, Porsche is kind of unusual because, to me, certain models are exotics, but like Dylan's car, to me, that's not an exotic. It's a really cool Porsche, but it's not like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. But those cars, what do we see? Black, white, maybe an occasional silver, maybe an occasional yellow. But we usually, unless it's like a celebrity in Hollywood, Paris Hilton or someone who's had hers painted, but we don't usually see those type cars in these skittle colors. At least I don't, not too often. And I know they're not offered from factory. Pagani and cars like those, these crazy exotics and so on. But the Porsches, that car we saw up there, the RS4, right? I mean, that to me was like, that's a pretty wild car. That's 500 horsepower, and that's, I don't know what they cost, like $300,000-$400,000, I would imagine. Like, that's getting into exotic territory, and that was
NATO
green, right?
Yeah, that was NATO green.
It
was beautiful.
What shade of green is that?
It was like matte, flat army green.
Yeah, it's like NATO green. It's literally like a military kind of color.
But it had the plaid, like Martina's shoes. We all need to look at Martina's shoes.
There's the wide shot. There's the wide shot.
Yes, and it had the neon plaid interior. And then he opted to not do the calipers in the green. He wanted blacks. He wanted to keep it understated. It was beautiful. And he was part of and ladies, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the 918 VIP allocation club.
Right?
Yeah, where he has carte blanche at MSRP and can just pick what he wants. And when there's no allocation, they will make one for him.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a bespoke Porsche.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I've seen that car at car shows before, and I have like 80 pictures of it on my phone. I'm like, oh, damn, we got to go meet the guy.
And that was in that was in your video clip that you guys put together.
It's in the
Yeah.
little video.
You were like walking. I'm almost assaulting the guy. Like,
She was rock
I've seen you
star.
on it.
Can I have your autograph?
And
You
he
have
was
this
like,
car?
oh, yeah, I'm like, tell me everything about it. It's like,
That's
I just
funny.
love the green. And then with my car being the color that it is, I'm with Martina. I like plain car. I mean, I like black, silver. I'm not really big on silver, but I like more muted shades and not to stand out. And then my friend was with me when we looked at this car, and I was like, a matching car? I don't know. And then I got in it, and he's like, oh, yeah, completely. You need to go for this car. And I'm like, maybe so. It's kind of growing on me. And then I was like, you know what? I am immediately melding with this car. I'm bonding with this car. Yes, we're doing this car. And it just happened, but I didn't go look for it.
Well,
And
it's
the-
like when
yeah.
you're attracted to people that look like you, or your dog starts to look like you. You have that with your car.
Laura, you nailed me. Guilty as charged. So,
Dylan, you're wearing blue, right? Miami
Yes.
blue.
That's it.
Yes.
but Dylan should tell us about her GTS that she had in that beautiful blue Macan
Sapphire.
Sapphire.
Yep.
What
That I
happened? Yes.
Yeah.
That sounded like past
Past
tense to
tense,
me.
yeah.
I had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this sounds like a sad story coming.
Yeah. But Miami blue, right? So initially when I was looking for a car, and I really wanted something that's different. And, you know, blue is my favorite color. So I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to get a blue car. And one day I saw this commercial, I think when the Miami Blue first came out, and I was like, I want that car in that color. And I'm not getting anything else except for in Miami Blue. So I was searching in the entire nation to find this car. But going back to the question, why the colors? And I just, personal opinion, I feel like if I'm driving a Porsche, it has to be one of the Skittle colors. It just has to be. But recently, Brenda mentioned earlier, I've been looking for cars, and I came across this beautiful white GTS, a GT3, excuse me. And I was like, before I probably would never consider a white GT3. And I went and looked in person. I was like, wow, Porsche really knows how to make their color, even if it's not a Skittle color. It's just black, white, red, or silver. So I think Porsche has a lot of history when it comes down to the colors. They're bringing back the Miami blue, the Mexico blue, the Riviera blues. Ruby Star was on one of the 964s when they first came out, and they're bringing the Ruby Star back. So I just really love the history, the stories behind all the colors.
Didn't you buy another car? That's what I heard. You bought another car that was the same color. Was it another Miami blue or
The GTS?
What'd you buy?
The GTI, yeah, I
The
bought
story.
the.
What happened to that one? Or are we bringing up?
Is it painful?
That
Is
was
it too
a
painful,
sad
Dylan?
story.
Bad vibes here.
No, so I bought, when I first moved here, I bought a Macan GTS as my commuter. It was in sapphire blue, and I named her Tiffany. You know,
Of course you did.
Of course.
so she has a name, so Tiffany, and my 718 Lapras, you know, they're siblings, right?
Right? I love it.
So one day I drove through the canyon, through Malibu Canyon, down to Malibu, just, you know, taking a late afternoon walk on the beach. And as I was leaving the beach, I was trying to turn around on PCH, and a motorcyclist just hit me. Thankfully, I was okay. My airbag didn't even come out.
Wow.
I was fine, and that happened, and my GTS was totaled.
And how
Oh,
long had
wow.
you had it?
I've only had that car for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez, that's painful.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Very painful.
That's
Yeah.
rough.
So
Yeah, and the one thing about the colors on Porsche is, oh shoot, what was I going to say? Man,
I had something to say,
you know,
CJ.
what were you going to say?
We-
Save
we-
me here, Dan.
No, we had a guest on one of our early shows, a gentleman named Craig Lichtenstein. If you guys
Oh,
go
yeah,
back
yeah,
and
yeah.
research our shows, he has Porsche 911 number 31. That car was bought in
331.
Germany. 331,
Yeah,
excuse
331.
me. Oh, was it 331? I thought it was 31. Okay,
The
anyway.
331st Porsche ever built.
Oh,
911.
331st Porsche, but the first 911, right?
No, the 331st Porsche 911 ever built.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that car was a press car that was bought in the 1960s by an Air Force officer at the factory, I believe in Stuttgart, right?
Yep.
And it's a brown. It's what was the color?
They
It was-
call it Braun 359 or something like that.
Yeah, but it's just like this.
369.
But it's
this-
got a lot of salmon in it.
Yeah.
I kept
Yeah.
calling it the
Yes.
Dana Point
It's
coral.
the Dana Point.
And I think
yeah.
it was the first one brought into Italy.
Yeah.
It was the first car
Right?
serviced in Italy, yes.
Okay.
That's
But
what
my
he,
point,
Porsche.
my
because it
point,
would have been a bigger deal if it was the first 911 serviced in Germany. But
well,
he
my,
said,
my original point was though that car is a brown that doesn't exist. Basically, it's a one of one.
they were
Because
testing Browns.
It was it wasn't an official
Yeah.
color, and you know how things were back in the '60s. It's like, oh, you want to buy this? Like they thought he was coming in to buy a 356, and they saw the press car in the back. It was like, what's that? Well, that's going to be a new car, but we're not selling them yet. Well, you got to sell me that car. So
It's gotta
this
be
Air
worth a
Force
fortune.
officer actually bought it in '63, I believe it was. And it
Yeah,
wasn't that
it-
expensive. And he brought the
64,
typed
yeah.
out, hand typed out receipt from the Porsche factory. And it has 356XXX 911 typed in. And it's this brown.
Wow.
And it's a wild color. It's really cool. It's brown, but it has salmon overtones in it. We saw it out in the sun out here.
Yeah.
And so I agree. Porsche does have this lineage of like, wow, they just do things with color that the other companies don't do.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Well, now they have Sonderwunsch, which is like it's called special wishes. Basically, you can design your car, and even if you want to do it crazy with every wheel being a different color or whatever,
Oh, really?
they which I was surprised they would allow that because they're
Right.
such a more understated brand.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do whatever you want. They actually just unveiled one at Quail in Monterey Car Week, but which is a yellow, but they call it Auto Yellow, which is named after a dog, which is a white dog. So I don't know.
A yellow lab, right?
Yeah.
Yellow
Yeah,
lab.
no, it's a white dog, and but so you can do whatever you want. You can do any kind of color. So now it's kind of really opened up a lot, for people to really play. It's quite expensive. It's a big addition to, building your car and going along with that. And, you have your own designer, you have a special swipe key to get in. It's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Really becoming a canvas.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's your own canvas. You can, and then they try to nudge you away from things that are tacky, but they will let you do it. For the right price.
And then who determines what's really tacky?
You do. And so they will let you do that. Yeah. So for a price, they're for sale. Yeah.
Well, I've heard stories when I talked about paint to sample,
Yeah.
and back in the day, and I think they still do it. People walk in, say, with a crayon and say,
Yeah.
I want it to match this exact color. And the dealer takes the crayon and they ship it to Germany and they match it up and they ship the car back with the crayon and say, there you go.
Wow.
And that's what they did for years. Do they still do that? Does anybody know?
I
I
mean,
think
I
they
don't-
do. Paint to sample.
I think they do. I think when I talked to Todd at Santa Clarita, he's like, yeah, you can do paint to sample. It takes a long time.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
But you can do it. There's a wait list, But I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's what my conversation was with him when I was buying my car because the color was so different. We were
Yeah.
talking about colors a lot. And he's like, yeah, next time you can just do paint to sample. I'm all, yeah, okay, we'll see.
Okay, so they still do it. That's good to know because that's a big deal
Yeah.
in the Porsche world if you
Yeah.
can find those old paint to sample
There's
cars.
there's one guy that I follow on Instagram, and he has an oak moss that I just adore.
that sounds
It's
pretty.
amazing. It's like a
Huh.
deep black green that's metallic in the sun, but not. It's pretty incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Martina, being the person that prefers black here, what do you think of all this talk? Are you just like,
I mean, I love the colors. And
Yeah.
actually, my fiance, his favorite color for his race cars was voodoo blue, and he's now changing to a green. I don't have the exact color, but it's going to be great.
How do you describe voodoo blue?
Voodoo blue is darker than Miami blue. It has a deeper blue tone.
Not a midnight blue. It's
Not
not
a
that
midnight.
dark.
Like shark blue.
Dark blue. Yeah.
It's amazing how many different shades,
Yeah.
right? And the greens and the blues and
Yeah.
interesting.
And me being a makeup artist, I'm in heaven. With all the shades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tone on tone.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about your story because
Yeah.
was it your dad who worked for General Motors for 60 years?
Yes.
So how does that happen where you get a GM guy for 60 years and then you fall in love with Porsches? How does that happen?
No. Well, it happened because I worked in a rehab doing accounting. You must be sitting with Porsche and women and numbers, I was there, and one of the therapists. This is like 20 years ago, and I did grow up with GM, but my first cars I had were all imports, so it was kind of weird with my dad.
So you weren't
working at
like
GM.
driving around in Camaros and that kind of
He wanted me to drive a Corvette. I'm like, no, I'm not driving a Corvette at 15 years old. I drove a 240ZX sports car. It was my first one, and I would speed all the time and get in trouble. But I had
Did
a
you
good
drive him
time.
nuts with the fact that it was an import?
It was his suggestion in a way, it was fun. So I guess I'll backstory. My dad would say, give me your top 5 cars, and one of them you'll get. I mean, I was very, I guess you say, spoiled about cars, but he knew how to buy low miles and know the owners. It's a small town, so he knew everybody that owned the cars, right? And he's like, well, this one's a one-time owner and it's got high miles, but we'll take care of it, So I picked the 240ZX, And Betty said, "I'm really disappointed that you didn't put a Corvette on your list."
Whoa.
I thought that was kind of funny. But anyhow, fast forward to 20 years ago, I'm working at this rehab, and this therapist comes up to me and she goes, and by this time, 20 years ago, I'd never even thought of purchasing a Porsche. Like, there's no way I can afford it. Women don't buy Porsches. Like, my dad was like, we don't do exotic cars. And I'm like, why not? We just don't. So I took that, And this therapist came up to me and she said, hey, Brenda, didn't I see you in a beautiful 911 white Carrera? I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I saw you on PCH and I was honking and your red hair was flowing and it was this beautiful car and she described the car to a T. And she was just going, she said, I swear that was you. And I'm like, Stephanie, it wasn't me. I can guarantee it wasn't me. But she planted a seed 20 years ago. And I remember going home and thinking, why could she see me in that car? But I couldn't see myself in that car. I wouldn't even allow myself to be in that car. So fast forward to now, what happened and everything with cars and, I just decided to go for it. And why not?
And you haven't looked back. You have not considered a Corvette since.
No.
Okay.
I love the way they sound, but we were at Good Vibes Breakfast Club. There was a couple. I'm like, there's no way it doesn't compare to a Porsche. I'm German too, so just that German simpatico-ness is just, it's just, I don't know. It's exhilarating. It sounds different. It feels different. It drives different. It is different, and that is very satisfying.
And they are perfect.
Thank you, Laura.
They are. They really are. I mean, the engineer. I've been lucky enough to go and talk with the engineers and the builders and all that, and there's no stone unturned. Like when you see a Tesla out on the road, and then you try to compare it to a Taycan, it's not even in the same wheelhouse. It's not even, they're so incredibly solid, and every stone has been overturned, and just, they really are perfect. I mean.
And the car that you have, the green one, so like I said, I Googled, and I saw that a photo where you had auto parts all over your apartment. So you built that to just the way you wanted it, right?
Yeah, my boyfriend and I got that car together, and when we met each other on our first date, he said, "What kind of car do you like?" And I said Porsche. I said, because it's funny because I've never said Porsche until I started doing this Porsche stuff. I would say Porsche, and also I speak French, and in French they say Porsche as well. So when you say Porsche, they'll correct you and say Porsche. So,
there you go, Brenda. There you go.
There it is.
That's the defense.
There it is.
I get voice.
I speak French.
I get
of course.
voice DMs, and they'll in the beginning they're like, "Oh, my dear Lara, it is Porsche," and I'm like, "Okay, I know."
Sounds like an identity crisis there.
Yeah, it sounds a little. In Southern California, it's almost like you sound pretentious if you say, "Oh, I'm in my Porsche."
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm trying not to be pretentious.
Yeah.
But we learned it's a name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
It's a brand.
and that is the way it's pronounced. So I
Yeah.
do say it now.
Honor the car, honor the maker.
Yeah,
So when you're in France, though, you say,
Porsche.
okay.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to ask
Okay.
Martina, could you tell us about what was your first Porsche? What were you doing in life, and where were you in life, and how did you hit on the head with the bell like ding Porsche? Oh my gosh, what happened?
Well, I was living in Miami Beach, and it was 2011,
Okay.
and I was finally able to afford one. And so I went down to the dealership and picked up my 911. And it's been an amazing car. It accompanied me on so many different journeys, coming to Southern California, moving to the Palisades, and then starting on my race car journey 8 years ago. It was my street car, and slowly but surely over the next 3 years, transformed it into, with Vision Motorsports, to my race car now, which is not street legal.
Oh.
Before I met her, I saw a picture of hers. It was on Rodeo Drive, I think. And I used to post other people's pictures, and I posted up hers and got her name, and I followed her because of that. But it just was, I remember when it was a normal car, and then now it's a complete gutted race car.
Wow.
I have a video on my Instagram that's her driving me around the track, and it's terrifying.
So it's Martina. It's caged. It's the motor is just like really.
Yeah.
Now, once again, I'm not a car guy. So your Porsche, your 911, that is still an air cooled, or for racing, does it turn into a water cooled? Or I'm sorry, I'm being naive. I don't know
it's
these
a
things.
997.2.
Okay.
And so basically we transformed it over a period of 3 years. So each year, first year, 2017, drove it stock, won the championship. Then we modified it slightly to win the modified championship. And then in that third final year was the GT4 class with Porsche Owners Club. And yeah, I love it.
So did you win back to back to back?
Yeah.
Porsche clap. Porsche
Yes,
clap.
absolutely.
Porsche clap.
Yes.
Yeah, three-time champion in the same car. And my fiance recommended at the time, I thought, maybe I'll get a GT4 Club Sport and, drive that instead. And he said it would make more of an impact if it's the same car.
Wow.
And just transforming that so there's no excuse. It's not the car, it's the driver. So that was a great suggestion.
And with different classes too. So each class was a different win.
Yes.
That's impressive.
We like
That
your
is
fiance.
impressive.
And he's even faster than her.
Oh my God.
How did you learn how to become a race driver? Were you kind of self-taught, or did you have a mentor who took you under their wing, like Martina, I'm going to turn you into a race driver? I mean, how did that happen?
Dwayne DeMent, my fiance, was my race coach.
He's your mentor.
Yeah.
Your race mentor.
He's her
Yeah.
dementor.
Wow.
The Dementor. Yeah, so we met at the racetrack. I started going sporadically in 2015. And then at the end of 16, I went on a trip to Dubai and decided to become a race car driver. And he was my coach and was great coach. And now we own DK together. Dwayne DeMent and Kay is Kwan. So we co-founded the DK Racing School together, and it's been amazing. Just,
Wow.
Meeting somebody who we share each other's passions and for being out in nature and horses as well. So it's not just Porsches, it's also horses and it's been
Horsepower.
Horsepower.
Yeah.
There you go. We're thinking around the same line.
That was coming.
And the horses on the logo, the crest.
Yeah,
That's right.
Wow.
And then Lara, back to you. So you and your boyfriend having your date, and you realize that you love Porsches.
Yeah. And so he said this is going to work out just fine. So it has. But it's funny because, to me, it wasn't a weird question to ask about what kind of car do you like, or because it's a personality. I think when you like a certain style or whatever, it is getting to know the person. So he had a 930 turbo, which has become my 930 turbo as well. But and then we bought the 1969 and built that up, and every inch of that has been touched by either him or me or obviously we had some builders as well to build the engine, but he put the engines in, and he's really good with cars. So we just designed it together, and I mean, there's in my scroll of photos, it's like steering wheels forever, and seat belts, everything, just every single detail.
These were all the parts that were in your home and your
Yeah,
living room.
it was in our my stepdaughter's room. When she would be at her mom's, we'd have things powder coated, and they were laid out on towels in her room just to stay out of.
It is amazing how pretty a part is when it's been powder coated.
Yeah.
Just sitting there, wrapped up in plastic or whatever. God, that looks so good.
He would be out, painting something or doing something. He's like, no one's ever going to see this. And I was like, it has to be perfect. So.
How long did the whole process take?
A couple years, a year and a half, something like that. It was pretty fast.
That's actually really good.
Yeah.
A year and a half.
Yeah.
And
is
it
really
was
good.
a rust bucket when we got it. So yeah. So.
Where did you purchase it from?
Actually, his best friend who he talks to every single day, ad nauseum. And he walks around our neighborhood because he works at home. So everyone's like, who's the weird guy walking around? One time I followed him. I'm like, he's got to be talking to a girl. This is crazy. Why is he? And I was like, yeah, so the wheels. And I'm like, oh my God. They're always on the phone. Anyway, he bought the car for $8,000 as is. It was running, but, pretty bad. And a roller, I guess. And then he said, well, I'll buy it for you right now. I'll buy it right now. Like whatever. He said, I'll give you whatever, $15,000 or whatever. And he goes, well, this guy was going to give me $24,000.
Of course.
So he goes, I'll give you $24,000 right now. So we just shipped it out, and that was, we were looking for that year and everything. So
this
Came out
begs
really
the
well.
question. I'd love to know who wrenches. Martina, do you wrench? Do you actually wrench on your cars
Look at
or
her.
no?
Why would she do something like that?
I'm not having any predisposed ideas of what women do. That's why I'm asking.
No, I'm with a master mechanic, so
Okay.
Yeah, she is.
he's the boss. And
Do you assist? Do you assist him, like when he needs a third hand type stuff, or no?
Preferably not.
Okay. So you're not into getting greasy and getting under the car and pulling an engine and doing that kind of stuff,
No.
doing belts and so on. Okay.
Do you ever jump in and just say, look, it's just not fast enough? Make it faster.
Feedback. You give
You
feedback.
get feedback.
I prefer to race over being a mechanic.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And then Lara, we just heard you. Did you actually get your hands dirty in doing that, or were you more supervising your boyfriend
I'm
and
a
putting
supervisor
this together?
in more ways than one. No,
Love it.
I'm a big feedback giver though. Like I get out and I go, something's wrong, something's
Yeah, yeah.
missed. Like I don't, even when we first got the car back, it was really gassy smelling, and he's like, it's normal. I'm like, it's not normal. It's not normal. Like it smells like the house is gonna go up in flames any second. But so every time I get out, I go, something's off or whatever, and he'll go, oh, sure enough, something.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's valuable.
yeah.
An
That's very
adjustment,
valuable.
maybe running too rich or something
Yeah,
like
you
that.
can feel it.
Yeah.
Like he'll adjust something. I go, no, adjust it back. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But
Okay. And then Dylan, any wrenching?
I don't do manual labor.
There you go. Fair enough.
I have my pit crew.
Okay. Fair enough.
Love
And then
it.
Brenda, I already know the answer to the question, but Brenda, do you wrench on
I
Charo?
have never wrenched on Charo because she's brand new and I pay to have it all taken care of.
Okay.
It's under warranty.
Do you want to wrench? Like
Yeah.
you and I had a conversation. You were talking about getting a race car. Now,
Yeah,
as Martina can tell you, having a race car means at some point,
Yeah.
if you don't have a boyfriend who wrenches, you're going to need to wrench something.
True. And I did grow up with my dad who made me learn how to
Okay.
change oil and change a
But you
tire.
prefer not to.
I like to know the whys of things and how
Same.
they work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I like to know that I can do something if I need to in a minute. I never like to be stranded or, so I will like to watch and assist. Let's say that I get married and a guy is a master mechanic and that would be a blessing. But I'd also be like, well, let me come help you. He'd be like, no. I'm like, let me just
They
watch.
do. They say no.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I'll be like, wait, I think it's here. And no.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
back away. I'm like,
so I probably would install cameras and watch from afar.
There you go.
Well, I
Okay.
also want to know so that I have
Yes.
the knowledge. Like what
I-
happened when it
yeah.
did that, or I want that knowledge. And
Yeah.
then
So you don't want to be out of sight, out of mind. I just turn the ignition and go drive the car.
No.
You do want to know why. Like
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on mechanically.
And I learned how actually with my high school boyfriend, I pulled the engine on my car. It was a VW, which was a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did know how to start it with. I used to put gas in the ashtray, and I would pour it right into the carburetor,
Yeah. Oh,
and it
Yeah.
would kick up.
Sure.
And eventually it caught fire, but
Oops. I was going to have a follow-up question, but you just answered it.
I did get it. It was like a movie, and I've told the story before, but it was like a movie because I was in all white. I was headed to work, and I was so frustrated. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not turning over. It's not starting. And then it all of a sudden it just went like it just poof, flame. And then this guy was watering his lawn manually, and I'm like, give me your hose, and we put it right out. So I actually sold it as is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then you
Okay.
get water in the carburetor. That's the next problem.
yeah.
I mean, it was a terrible car. So I had to work on it. I think that's what it is. You don't want to work on cars when you've had to work on cars. And I always say a little prayer for when I pass people that are pulled over. I passed a guy today on the freeway. They were just a whole team of guys in a truck, just like it was stalled. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, because I've been there so many times,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of VWs, Beth still misses
I still
hers
mourn the
bug.
loss of my 66 Bug.
Oh.
That was her.
I love that car.
I had a
But
64.
my favorite story is when she fell in love with the Porsche. You want to tell it? Or
Well,
do you want to tell? You want me to tell it? Or
You
tell
can
it?
tell it if you want. I will just say that it's like a kit glove, like you've had it your whole life. You sit at it.
It's like
it
an
just,
old friend.
It is like an old friend, and it just kind of envelops you. I'm big about smells, and I love the smell of those cars.
So yeah, so when our daughter started driving, I gave her, at the time I had an Acura GSR. And I didn't really give it to her, but I let her drive it. And then the question is, what are we going to replace it with? And I was like, well, I want to go out and get an old Porsche. She's like, we should get a Honda. she get a used Honda because it's practical.
And I'm thinking practical. I'm thinking financial reasons, and we're dealing with a lot of different things in life. And I'm like, why are we going to spend money on a Porsche? Well, we can use that money to help pay for college down the road and all these things, which never happened.
Well, my biggest
Because then you don't want to sell it. Yeah,
well,
that's the problem.
My biggest argument was, okay, wait a minute. In 5 years, the Honda is going to be half the price.
Yeah.
The Porsche is going to be maybe double.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we bought ours 12 years ago, so just before the 911s, took off. So we buy this thing, and at one point,
What year is it?
87.
Okay.
So it's got the G50 and I wanted 87. I wanted the 87 or 88. That's kind of what I was looking for, and as I just kind of like the rawness of it. I mean, it's a really raw car. So I find one in LA. And it's garage. The guy's got all the documentation for it. It's original
Nice.
paint, all that stuff, everything I wanted, right? And so I go down to L.A. to test drive it, and Beth wouldn't go with me.
I couldn't go with you. There's a difference.
Well, you kind of rolled your eyes and I can't do it.
because
All
I
right.
was probably working.
So yeah. So who wants to go? One of our daughters. So what was she? Maybe 14 at the time, something like that. So Natalie goes with me. And we drive down to L.A., and the whole way down there, she keeps saying, my boyfriend says the 911's the ugliest car. Oh, my God, my 911. It's the ugliest car. The ugliest car. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, God, your boyfriend's a freaking idiot. So we get down there, and it's in West Hills. We pull up. It's sitting in the driveway, and Natalie looks at me and goes, is that the car? And I said, yeah. She goes, that's gorgeous. Yeah, so we test drive it, and next weekend I go down to buy it. I said, Beth, you have to come with me. One, I had called the previous owners, and one of them, I asked him, he goes, I love that car. Oh, my God, I loved it. I said, well, why, if you loved it, why'd you sell it? He goes, because my wife couldn't drive it. There's no power steering. And she had problems driving it. She couldn't, do her little 3-point turn or whatever it is. So I said, Beth, you got to go with me because you have to test drive this thing. Just, it's going to be ours. It's not just mine, it's ours. So we get down there. She starts driving, and she's driving around the valley, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, kind of pulls over, and she goes, feels like we've owned this thing forever. And that was it.
And I bypassed a family funeral for that, by the way, an old family friend.
Wow.
Did you?
I did.
I
Yeah,
didn't even
it
know
got
about
very
that.
complicated.
Story
but-
just got
But
really
that
dark.
that was just part of the day. I'm like, this is important. I know, and that got really complicated. So anyway,
So now if I mention ever selling it, what do I get?
don't sell it.
No,
it's a beautiful
don't.
car.
Everybody
Never sell
regrets
it.
when they sell it.
Yeah.
Everybody regrets
Yes.
it.
You can
Yeah.
never sell that car, CJ.
So-
That car is so you.
It's
we
love it.
for the next
It's a
6
member
months.
of the family now, obviously. But.
Next 6 months, he comes running in like, "Oh my gosh, you have to come see this! The original floor mats are here, or the original. Found the original tools for the whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, every little tiny detail, as you're saying, turning over every stone. Right?
Yeah.
He was turning over, and he was finding all this stuff. It was very cool.
Yeah, that's fun. All
Yeah.
right. So she's a convert
Yeah.
from VW
Yeah.
to Porsche.
Yeah, well, it's German cars, so
Yes.
that's how I
Yeah.
did the VW, BMW, and then because I couldn't afford the Porsche, and then when I could in my 40s.
That's exactly what I did. I went from Carmen Ghia to BMW 2002. I had 3 of those
Yeah, I love those.
to Porsche.
Yeah, it's
Same
and it's the
transition.
same.
a
Yeah,
great
that's
progression.
the same.
Same.
brain I
BMW, Mercedes, and then Porsche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
To,
Very
sense.
very good.
championship. Yeah, that's one thing that we don't have.
So right now, I'd like to shift gears, and I'd like to put some pictures
No
up
pun
and
intended.
get your guys' commentary on some of these pictures, because we have some interesting ones from you guys.
If I knew we were all supposed to pose with our cars, I would have sent you some of me posing on my 911 Dan.
You could still get some. It's in the back right now.
It's not too late. I know a guy named CJ.
Oh, look at there you go.
That's awesome.
Now, was that the day you picked it up?
That was the day I picked it up.
Ah, that's brandy.
Yeah.
So if we have to explain here because we're on podcast.
Yeah.
We're on all of the platforms, aren't we, Dan?
Yes,
Okay,
we
so-
are. Well, not on TikTok, but we're on everything else.
Okay. But at least the podcast, whatever you're on, But if you're listening on a podcast and you want to see what we're talking about, you have to go to our YouTube channel and search under West of Tulsa Show. Because if you go just West of Tulsa, you get a music video.
Country music video, yeah.
So West of Tulsa Show on YouTube, and then you can see these photos.
So Brenda,
There's our
walk us
disclaimer
through.
right off the bat.
Yeah.
What are we seeing here, Brenda?
We're seeing my first Porsche.
Porsche.
Oh my
A new
God.
word for the car.
I'm just going to say Porsche because I'm just saying it. It's my first Porsche purchase.
And what is it, though?
It is a 2024 Macan.
We have to be very descriptive for
Yeah,
our listening
2024
audience. So.
spicy papaya metallic Macan from Porsche Santa Clarita.
And you're holding your arms up, and there's
'cause I'm
storm clouds
so
behind
excited.
you. It's
Touchdown.
pretty
Yes,
crazy.
and I thought that was really interesting. There's 3 little lights in the back coming down. I'm not sure what that's about, but we were like, that's interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah, very excited. Like I never thought I would own a Porsche, and it's
Beautiful.
life changing for me.
And that's the one that's out here right now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful.
yeah. And I'm already in the market for my second.
Ooh.
I know.
What are you
So,
thinking?
I don't know. It keeps changing. You know.
She's been all over the map.
I
Everything from
have.
race cars to
Yeah.
a GT3 to a GT2 to a...
But are you thinking newer or older?
I don't know.
Oh boy,
I really don't.
You're
I
really
just-
wide open,
It's all
aren't you?
about just getting in the car and deciding and feeling, because I feel like there's going to be more than 2. I feel like I'll be adding because I'm just obsessed.
maybe
And
twins.
No, I really do want to race. I really want to take lessons from Martina, and I want to go down that route because I love speed so much. I grew up watching drag races with cars, and
Get on track.
I bet you ladies have some suggestions for her.
I really want to get on track.
DK racing for sure.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
it-
We talked about this. And
yeah, I told you about it when
Yeah.
we met.
Yeah.
That's
I
it's-
need to get my feet wet with that and see if I want to go in that
and
direction.
you do it at your level. You don't have to.
Right.
Other people do encourage you. And actually, after I got in her car, which I thought I was going pretty good, and I wasn't, I got in her car and I just saw how much trust she had in the car. And then the next day, there was a women's event at Pekla, and I beat everyone. And actually, it was funny because Lauren was there the day before, and she was so much faster than me on the track. She's been a bunch of times, and she's done her class a bunch of times. And we were teammates, and she's like, "Oh, so what were our times?" And it was just autocross, but I was so much faster because of just actually getting in her car and feeling. Not that I don't know what the car is capable of, but when you get in somebody else's car, and I was also driving another person's car when I was racing with her, but it pushed me more. So the next day I was on fire.
You're like, let's do this.
Yeah.
One with the car, like
Yeah,
one
I
with
have the
horse.
skill. It's just because I'm a precision driver, I think there's a lot of you're always. What can go wrong? So I'm always, assessing, which way am I going to bail? What am I going to do? Like, it's the worrywarts that become the precision driver, and the stunt people, they don't have a care in the world. They're just like, we're just going to go until the car disintegrates. It doesn't matter. So like when people do speed records or whatever, I'm always like, what if the tire blows? What's going to happen? So that's, but she just put so much trust in, and I think it's also because she knows where that work has gone into your car with Dwayne and everything. So, and he's so good and obviously such an amazing racer. So you'll get to see him, you'll get to see her, and you need to pay me for this. no, I'm kidding. But no, it's a great racing school. They walk you through the whole track. It's at Willow. It's just an amazing experience.
Is it year round?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is year round. Okay.
They actually live on the track there. Like they have the space just as you're coming in that they have, where they can live part of the time.
Awesome.
Right? Living,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, right by the gate.
Okay.
Should we sell our house?
We might want to talk about that on the drive back home. Yeah, okay.
It's a little bit hotter than Santa Barbara out there, though, isn't it, Martina?
Yeah, but you're on a racetrack.
And colder. It's really cold
Yeah,
in
the winter,
morning.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could actually snow there. But
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Right now
Yeah.
it's in
Okay.
about the 90s.
Okay.
Do you is it called Willow Springs? Is that the name of the track or is that the name of the area? Like, could you say, I'm in Willow Springs, California?
So it's in Antelope Valley, north
Right.
of Lancaster and Palmdale, on the way to Mammoth.
Mm-hmm.
And the town is called Rosamond, and it's Willow Springs International Raceway.
Got it. Okay.
And so we're right by the gate, and it's amazing living right on a racetrack, and it's just gorgeous scenery. beautiful desert weather. It's amazing.
And you can get killer Basque food out there too.
Oh yes, we
is
talked about
killer
that.
what?
Basque food.
Really?
Basque.
Basque.
Oh,
Basque.
Portuguese.
Basque.
Well, they call it Basque or Basque.
It's Portuguese, though, right?
Do they say? Well,
Basque
you're
French
German, right?
and-
Basque.
Isn't it
it's
Portuguese?
It's
I thought
French.
Basque was Portuguese.
French and
No, I don't think Basque is Portuguese. I think
Spanish?
they're
French
their
and
own
Spanish.
thing.
I think it's French
They're their own
Spanish.
thing.
It's-
I think a
we used-
Basque would be insulted if you said
I
they were
think Basque is
Portuguese.
Spanish.
Yeah, but I think it's more Spanish because I remember
It
I
is.
grew up in San Diego and we go up into Cuyamaca
border.
and Julian, and there was a Chateau Basque. What used to be up there. My parents loved it.
Yeah,
And
there's the Basque region of Spain, I believe, right? Yeah, they're their own people and culture and
Yeah.
language and everything, but their food is
Food is
love their
phenomenal.
food.
Yeah,
The food's really good.
it is great.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently we do know what we're talking about.
But it takes a village.
Not about cars.
Notice I
Not
kept my
about
mouth
cars.
shut through that whole
But
conversation.
Basque food, I know Basque food a little bit.
And back to Willow Springs, this is where the Lane Drifters takes place too, right? The tracks out there
Yeah.
for lane drifting.
Is that where Christina does
I believe
her?
it is.
Willow?
And
Does
she
she?
does her. Remember, she holds her.
Yeah, but I just don't
sessions
know if
out
it's
there.
at Willow though. Does
So-
anybody know?
Willow has many different tracks. So it has 7 tracks. 2
Oh.
are road racing, and then 2 are primarily drifting.
Okay.
Okay.
And then there's also oval tracks in the back.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think I ever knew there were that many tracks there.
Yeah.
What
it's-
does it mean when I hear Button Willow? Is Button Willow tied to Willow? Is that one of the tracks?
Button Willow is actually a different track, and it's
Oh.
on the I-5 off to the Grapevine.
Oh, okay.
And it's near Bakersfield, and it's an amazing track, and they're actually building a second track there.
Is that the one you see right off the freeway there?
You can, yes. You
Yeah.
see a bunch of trees. It's
Yeah.
Lurdo Highway by the John
Yeah,
Deere.
yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Button Willow.
That's Button Willow.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
great to know because you hear that so many of these are shutting down, right? This land is being used to build housing or something else.
Yeah.
Nice
So-
to hear there's some expansion
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Oh.
Martina, can you give us any insight on the sale? What's happening there?
Unfortunately, not.
I
We
didn't
have
think
the
so, yeah.
answer, but we're not
Okay.
able to talk about
All right.
it. The answer will be probably made public soon,
Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
but we're happy about the
The
new
outcome.
The
owners.
result.
Yeah,
The
the
outcome.
result.
There you
the
go.
result.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, that's exciting.
Good to
Yeah,
hear.
it really is exciting.
Good to hear.
Dylan,
All right.
do you go there often? Have you done a lot of racing there as well?
No, I actually haven't gone or been to any of the racetracks in California yet. However, I've been doing a lot of autocross with PCA LA in SoCal.
Yeah, the Porsche clubs do a lot of that. You can sign up, and the clubs
Yep,
have their
exactly.
track days, or
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
They're fun. We had one of our daughters. We took out to one of them. It was fun to see her zipping around the track.
Yeah.
So she got a little bit of the bug.
So it's on my list. I was actually gonna go to the race day today at Button Willow, but it was a little too hot, and plus this, so
Yeah.
like next time.
Yeah.
It's almost as hot here.
I was just going to say.
You know, it's all the ladies.
So, Dylan, you could tell us about this picture.
Oh, this one. So this was taken when we were living on the East Coast, and we don't normally let other people wash our cars, so we prefer to do it ourselves. And yeah, and that's my car covered in soap
Okay.
in our backyard.
I saw that and I wasn't sure. Is that ice or
I
is that
was thinking the same
No.
thing. Is it? Did you wake up some morning and your car was frozen in time?
No,
That's kind of what it looks like a little bit. But
It could almost look like ice, yeah.
And then what's going on here? Is this autocross?
So yeah, this was at Autocross in Lake Elsinore, and that was my first time going out to Autocross in California. So, and I was like, I need to take a picture of my car on this backdrop, the mountains, the palm trees. I
Pretty.
mean, you can't really get this anywhere else but in California.
now, the first time you took that car on the track, did you have a newfound love for it? Did you like, whoa, this thing is perfect? I love it even more now than I did before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just the mid-engine, and I've driven 911s before, and I ask people about this all the time. I said, hey, you know, I have a 718. It's mid-engine. I love it. I autocrossing it. I take it to the racetrack. But when I was driving the 911, I felt like I'm sitting like this. I felt the weight, majority of the weight is in the back. Of course it is, right? Because it's rear engine. But my body felt it. And
What year did you get into?
it was a 992.
Okay, yeah. They're not the right size.
Yeah.
Like a 997 is my
More
favorite
tighter.
size.
And, I've seen the pictures and the revolution from the first 911 to the 992. Today's 911, the size has changed so much. And so, yeah, like I just feel so different. I mean, someday I would love to have a GT car because it's a GT car. And I don't know if I would get a GT4 or a GT3 because of the mid-engine versus the rear engine.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought about that. Just being able to feel like
Yeah.
you're like sitting back.
I felt that, but I've talked to other people. They were like, are you crazy? Were you drinking? I'm like, no, I don't know. I would love to hear from other girls here too. Like, when you guys drive the mid-engine versus the rear engine, do you feel the weight shift?
I mean, when you're going fast, you would, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think both are great platforms. I've always loved the 911 platform, and you learn to drive it and control it. Although if I had to start over with, transforming a street car into a race car, I would probably start with the GT4 or Cayman-based platform. And I do love the mid-engine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll find out. Maybe I will get a 911 and just relearn it, or, keep my Cayman and do a comparison.
And when that happens, call us and let us know. We'll have you back on the show, and we'll let everybody know what you think about it.
Great.
I feel
Awesome.
like it does take a second to, like, even when you get in the cockpit, every car is, just adjusting my steering wheel, everything. I do a whole thing before, I start driving, because, you get in and somebody else has been driving it, especially like when they drop off the fleet cars or whatever. I'm like, oh, what is going on? So, and I do notice that the 992, when you sit in it, the door jambs are really high, where they're just higher, and you just feel a little more engulfed by the car. But the 997, I felt like, is the perfect
Like the seating
size.
feels a little lower in the car?
The door is higher, so even you just see like the top of the person's head. It's kind of. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like the bigger size. I does feel like I said this when I first got in one, but I said I feel like I'm in a truck. It just seemed like bigger. I'm not trying to. Don't get mad at me, Porsche people, but I just comparatively to the 997 and just getting into the 992, it was just big. It just seemed so much bigger to me. So, and it's not that much, but just even this, where the ride height and all the seat and everything was just seemed different to me. But then I've adjusted, and then you can kind of get yourself there. But I felt like just the 997 was just much more comfortable for me to just jump in and go.
I wanted to ask Martina, mid-engine versus rear engine. I've talked to experienced drivers, even race drivers, who, aren't Porsche drivers, but they have driven Porsches and so on. And the general feedback I always got on the 911 was, there's nothing else like it. You have to drive a 911 like a 911 because of that rear engine thing. And I actually did a drifting documentary, so I was really fascinated with car control and precise car control and so on. And I've ridden with D1 drivers, the Japanese guys that were over here, and I've hung out the side, a foot from the K-rail going 100 miles an hour and so on. So I've seen, when you get to a certain level of driver, I mean, that's drifting. It's not race car driver, it's drifting. But I do know, do you have a preference? I mean, obviously you have a 911, so do you like the mid-engine platform, or do you really think the rear engine is just the way to go?
Yeah, so like we just said, I prefer the 911, and I'm familiar with driving it. I also had a GT3 RS, which doesn't compare to the race car, but was a really fun car to have. But the mid-engine platform is amazing, so if you were to decide between a GT3 and a GT4 street car that you could track as well, I would probably go with the GT4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it that the rear engine, it's easier to break loose? It's more squirrely. In other words, the traction control, especially for the rear, is like more of a factor than in a mid-engine car?
Well, it's a different way of driving. So the 911, because the engine is in the rear, will have more of a tendency to break loose, but you are able to control it with experience. But the mid-engine platform is just a great all-around balanced car, just from a physics standpoint. So
Weight. Yep.
yeah, so the mid-engine platform of the Cayman and the GT4 Club Sport is amazing.
Okay, good. Thanks for educating me about that. I just didn't know.
I'm the least experienced in the Porsche community here, and the Boxster felt like part of me, the mid-engine, and it was a GTS, and it just felt like I trusted that car. It just felt like it would glue with me, it would go with me. And then when I drove the 911, I don't know what model it was a 2022 Carrera, that car felt much heavier and boxier, and the doors, like you said, Laura, they were up here, and I sunk in, and I was like, what's going on? And I kept like readjusting myself, and so that car didn't feel like an extension of me. And I think it's because of the mid-engine just felt like I was grounded in it immediately. And I think it's a personal preference, but I felt a big difference.
I have the 930 Turbo, which is called the Widowmaker for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
And, because I think that's where Porsche is so good with, the weight distribution and everything. Like, I don't feel that in a 911, but in the 930, you definitely do.
And what year is it?
In 1982, it's a Euro spec.
Yeah. So definitely, yeah.
And you definitely have to take it easy. One of my friends is a journalist, and he was over at Willow, Bassem Wassef, and he said he was commenting on the 930 and trying to go around the track in the 930 is just a different animal. And he's a very skilled driver, but it really is a challenge to just, people were, wiping out, and they were calling them Widowmakers because of that. So they fixed a lot of those problems.
And partly because back then when Porsche came out with the Widowmaker, the 930, people were just jumping in their car and going.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with that car.
Yeah,
I mean, if you have some understanding of what it's going to do on a turn, or when you gun it, especially on a turn, what's the thing going to do?
And with the turbo lag when it kicks in, and
boom,
that's
what threw people off on those cars.
Yeah.
And I think as time went on and people started to understand that you can't just jump in and go. You have to respect, especially that car.
Yeah.
People learned quickly, for obvious reasons, or
they didn't, and they're no longer with us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, Laura, I did want to ask you this picture. Can you tell
gorgeous.
us what's happening in this picture?
That is in my favorite country, Italy. That's the Miglia. I did it with, I'm driving there with Bernard Moix, which I got him off of my Instagram. I had said I'm going to do the Miglia with my tire sponsor, which was Vredestein Tires. And I just needed the car to be over a European car. They didn't want to ship or do all that. So he stepped right up to the plate. I had already picked somebody. I ended up being catfished. And then even though he was rejected, he continued to get it FIFA certified, all the things you have to do to get it race ready. And I came back to him, and he was like, oh, yeah, it's all ready to go. So he was the perfect partner for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that car.
That is a beautiful car.
Speedster.
Yeah, 1955 Pre-A.
Oh.
Yeah. And he has quite a collection himself. And he wanted me to meet his wife, which was really great because, it's weird. I wanted to do 2 women because I needed to be the primary driver, and he was okay with that. But he wanted to drive in the Mille, which was understandable. And so I was like, all right, I don't know how this guy drives, whatever. And he was perfect. We got along great through the whole thing, and I actually stayed with him and his wife for 2 weeks before the race.
Oh, that's great.
And now they're like family. So yeah.
And that looks like it's probably pretty original car.
Oh,
I don't see a lot of modifications. And if they're modifications, they're
underneath. And you can't do Mille unless you.
Can't.
I mean, trust me, they modify them.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what they're looking at when they do the test. But one passed us like we were standing still, and it's these 2 girls. Another girl named Lara. She ended up crashing last year or the year before. But I know why, because she drives like a bat out of hell. And we were driving at full throttle. I mean, pinned, no seatbelts, of course. And she comes flying past us, and a Range Rover right behind. And the Range Rover was the husband's, driving after these two women. And I'm like, that's a modified car. I've got it floored. This is insane. So he had little modification in it, but he's restored it. He had just restored it completely. I go, why don't you want to use your other car that's tried and true? He's like, no, I want this one to get the, because it's legacy on the car. So,
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, one of my favorite cars of all time right there.
Yeah.
The Speedster.
Yep.
There you go.
That's a
There
930.
it is, the
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
a 930 Turbo. My friend Gabor took that picture, and it's been all over. A lot of people use it.
The color, the
I was
combination.
gonna say, what color is
menacing
that?
a little
It's almost
bit,
like a dark bronze.
It's
Yeah.
matte. Yeah, it's actually underneath. It's a wrap, and underneath is Zin Metallic, which is also what do they call it? Zinc Metallic in English, because it's a German car. I mean, it's a Euro spec car. But yeah, we wrapped it, and it looks really. And we put the rear tires in the front to give it a little heavier stance, and then the rears are, so it's usually 7/8, and this is 8/9. So,
Okay. Flashing peace to the world. Is that what that was?
It's just the coolest.
yeah, I always say that's my signature move. My boyfriend goes, "It's your signature move." I go, yeah.
No one's ever done that.
That's what I always do. This is taken by, I started my Instagram, and then right after, like 2 days after, Bart Kirkins, who is a big photographer he has books that he puts out, A Flat Six Love Affair. And so he's like, oh, you want to do pictures? I'm like, here it goes, 2 days into the Instagram. And I said, yeah, well, I'll check it out, whatever. And then this is a day after I got back from Europe. It was early morning. He wanted to do it early morning. I said, good thing I'm on jet lag because I was waking up early. And I just put the glasses on. I had no makeup on, and he just shot me with the wind going. And so he's
And the black and white. I like the black and white.
That's all he does. It's all
Where's this
animal.
at?
Right.
Where was
That is in Huntington Beach.
That's a
in
great
a parking.
shot. I
It's
love
a
it.
parking lot. The guy's running in the backyard.
It's so photojournal documentary
Yeah, it's
looking,
great.
even though I
It's
know
candid.
it's not. It's
Southern
super cool.
California. That's what it looks like.
the
Black and
boat's
white
out
Southern
there, the guy
California.
running.
Well, I
yes.
was moving around a lot too. He's like, "This is analog. This isn't a digital camera. I was like, slow it down." So he caught a couple. That was taken by my stepdaughter Abby. She loves the cars as well. And we went out to do some filming, and she took that picture, and it's
Great
cute.
light.
Oh, that's in a book. That's in a Porsche book too. That one is in a book called Oh My God by Porsche. Do not know what it's called. It was a story about our love affair with each other and our cars. So it was my boyfriend and I. That was one of the pictures we submitted for that.
Great
And
shot.
with as many followers as you have on Instagram, are you driving around Southern California and all of a sudden somebody goes, "Hey, that Porsche girl"? You ever get any of that?
I've had it happen a couple of times, and I think it's so hilarious. It's funny, but especially in the green car. But like, I will be talking to people at a car event, and no one recognizes me. So. Because she's like 25 and skinnier than me, and she's amazing. She's always in a good mood. But I did have one guy drive slowly, and I had just been in the magazine at Christophorus, and I was like, oh, here it goes, because I was with the car. And he goes, "Are you in Christophorus magazine?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Panorama magazine." I said, "No, it's Christophorus." He goes, "That's where I saw you." And then I had one group of girls and a dad driving, and they were screaming, "That Porsche girl! Oh my God!" And I love when that, like, especially when it's girls, because that's a big deal. And I had one girl during the pandemic goes, "That Porsche girl," getting her toilet paper, because there was tons of toilet paper.
That's so cool.
Toilet paper was
Yeah.
a status symbol for a while.
Oh my gosh.
I got a Costco 36 pack.
I was like, how is wine on the shelves and there's no toilet paper? I'm like, come on, guys.
And during the pandemic, so were you one of the ones hoarding during the pandemic?
No, as a matter of fact, we had some, and then we got down to like one roll, and my boyfriend went down to just our little corner liquor store, and he goes, there was like 4 rolls. I just took, or maybe it was like 6 rolls, and he took just 4, and he left 2 for people. Yeah.
Consider it.
But it was
Very
when
nice.
they all restocked, and I was like, all right, I got to get in case something else happens.
Yeah. I never could figure it out. Why toilet paper? I never did figure that out.
That's so weird to me, right?
It is totally weird. But
Yeah.
People
All
are
right.
weird.
Wait, let's
What is
let's don't
this?
get into toilet paper.
That's a
on
great
the
color.
Porsche website, and it was just a story. I'm reading it. How I fell in love with classic 911s.
Okay.
So yeah, they just did a story.
Did
and-
Porsche reach out to you, or did you reach out to them, or how did that whole
I
thing
followed
happen?
them.
You
I followed them. They followed me back, and I was like, "Oh, I've made it!" Like to me, it was like it was the highest honor.
Yeah.
And they only follow like 400 people or whatever, but so it was a really high honor. I was really excited, and then when they called me, they wanted to do a story in Christophorus, and they said, you know, it's hard to find girls we want to do stuff with because you know the girls are a lot of time posing on the cars and stuff like that. So they wanted somebody who had a little bit something else going on. I think
Classier.
they've done little stories on Miss Martina over here too, so that was a huge honor too because the person who reached out on my Instagram had like 6 followers, and I'm like, they're like, we want to talk to you about working with a big company or whatever, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to answer this. And I always go, what's up? And then it ended up being a Porsche person. I go, I almost didn't answer. And she goes, people don't answer often. I use my personal. And I said, yeah, you need to use your Porsche.
Yeah.
They may have had an ulterior motive too, because they were probably thinking, we got to find out about that color.
Yeah.
I mean, after the story you told us,
They
were
probably
like,
chipped a piece off and then went, yeah.
is that it for the photos?
No, we have more.
Oh, we got more. All right.
I wanted to talk about this image, which is amazing.
Love it.
So tell us a little bit.
So that is my 997.2 race car, 911. And it's called Firehorse for the year that I was born. And I love this car. I
So
mean,
it's amazing
It's an
looking.
awesome car.
And I love how you kind of took that martini look and worked that into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At first, my eyes looked at, well, martini. No, wait a minute. And I got to
Yeah.
like squint to see that it's a.
It's very
Yeah.
Euro
Martina
spec looking
Kwan.
with those colors, right?
Yeah.
That livery.
See that
It's,
size though?
You know,
It's perfect.
Martini, Martina.
Yeah. No, that works.
Yeah.
So on the
Works.
back, are those 10s? Tires? Are those look like 10s on the back? 10-inch? 17?
No,
10?
no.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's the angle, but so we'll say you don't get to see those too often.
Ooh,
There's
that's
a
a
nice
great
shot.
Looking like a badass.
Yeah.
So that was an incredible year. I was at Cars and Copters with my GT3 RS in May, and I was scouted by the executives from Celine, which is an American car company, to drive in a fully sponsored ride in the GT World Challenge. And one of the first assignments, aside from racing, was to go to China, which was a great honor, being half Chinese as well, and representing women, Chinese women, and drove in front of 25,000 people in the Olympic Stadium in Beijing.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
yeah,
That's
so
exciting.
this was the day before, and we were at the Golden Port racetrack in Beijing before we moved the cars to the Olympic Stadium. So that was an incredible year and probably the hardest in my life. I was on my championship with the Porsche, and then I was driving professionally here, but that's what dreams are made of.
What year was this?
This was 2019.
Okay. Wow. Right before everything went to shit. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing. By the way, you guys can't cuss. We can, not that we want to, but you can cuss. So
Well, in that case,
Beth encourages us to
Yes,
cuss
I do,
more,
often.
but we can't cuss enough for Beth.
It
so.
depends on the subject matter, though.
That's true.
Reeled in.
Selective cussing.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
This shot's amazing. Tell us about this.
This was in 2017, and that was kind of the year that started my new journey of wanting to become a race car driver. Had stripes on it. It was still a street legal car. But 2017 was a hugely symbolic year for my new freedom. I divorced in that year. I met Dwayne in that year. I became a race car driver, and at that time, I won the championship. That was the first year of winning. And that was an amazing year, and this picture really symbolizes that happiness that I hadn't seen in myself in so long. And so, yeah, my advice to any woman is it's never too late to change your life. And if you're not happy, just change the scenario and move on to the next.
awesome.
Great
Because the
story.
photos also show a lot of confidence.
Yes.
For
Amen.
sure.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
empowerment. And you've got awesome shoes, too, I have to add. In every shot that I've seen and what you're wearing, as we've commented earlier.
I think the first time I
Beautiful.
met you, you got out of the car and you got out with these gigantic stilettos, and I was like, "That's my girl." Yeah, not even a problem for her.
That's funny. This picture was for I was in the Billionaire magazine photo shoot, and so this car was lent by Porsche Beverly Hills, and then I had my own GT3 RS, and then Aston Martin as well. And so I love this picture because it's also sort of a fiercely independent woman with her helmet, and yeah, we can do just as much as men.
Great shot.
Didn't you mean Aston Martina?
That's
works.
great.
It's funny. And then that was another, again, the independence and confidence with the helmet and the freedom that it speaks volumes to me. I love this picture. Standing in front of the Porsche, that was at Will Rogers Park in the
okay.
Pacific Palisades.
Yeah, yeah.
And so for the GT3 RS, we actually used the stables in the background as the backdrop. And yeah, perfect location. And I love these photo shoots because it just, I hope, inspires confidence in others as well.
Well, and it's backed by actual, like her legacy of driving, and it's not just posing. It's like she's posing as a powerful woman that also inspires women to want to be female. We love being female. We don't want to be a dude. So like even when I say like posing in front of the car, I'm saying using it as a prop as opposed to, I always say we're the accessory to the car. I mean, the car is it should be, the car is the star. But when she poses in front of that, it's so much more power because there's a story behind it,
That's right.
So,
Well, and there's authenticity. You're not being a model. You're a race car driver, and you're a confident woman. And I think it's great. They're amazing shots.
and like every guy who stands with his helmet and does it, and she can be just as female.
Not in a
and do
Grecian
that.
gown though.
Yeah, he can't do that.
And then I wanted to bring this up,
Oh, that's awesome.
which is a great shot. Love that
Yep.
shot, Brenda. Tell us about this shot.
That was a really big deal for me because it was my first time driving a 911 ever. Ever. Even though it wasn't my car, it was a friend's car. And then the photographer was like, get on the ground. I'm like, really? And I'm super, super self-conscious. I don't want to be hoochie mama. I don't want to be the girl standing in front of a car if it's a friend's car, like, oh, sexy. No, I'm like, no, this is about power. This is about independence. This is about me owning this moment.
I look at that and I go, badass.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a badass.
It looks
That
great.
and I put so many miles on that car in 24 hours because I surprised so many girlfriends. I'm like, hey, I just want to pick you up and take you. They didn't know I had the car, and I'm like, it's your birthday. Let me take you out. It's like, wah! And I want to inspire other women. Like, hey, you can do this. So kind of like Martina in 2017. This was last October. And Vanessa, who's here right now shooting, she was there, and she might have even taken that photo. But it was a big moment for me, and that again, I picked a green car.
That's telling you
it's
something there.
kind of
That's telling you
interesting,
something.
right? And
Yeah.
it's just it was a big moment for me.
So
to
just
like,
admit, you want to have an army of women Porsche drivers, a veritable army, Brenda's army, right?
yeah, not Brenda's army, no, women's army.
Well,
you
women's
know,
army,
yeah,
but
like
yeah.
I just I don't know. Laura and I could
like
talk
when
about it.
you said you inspired your friends or whatever. That's
Yeah.
exactly when I saw a woman driving one and she wasn't married,
Yeah.
like in my neighborhood. My mom said, "Oh, we're gonna go and see her new car," and I was like, "Oh, it's a Porsche! Like this is insane. She doesn't have a
Yes.
husband. She's a
Yes.
she's a businesswoman, and I always joke around. She wasn't a pretty woman. She wasn't like Barbie doll, where I was gonna aspire because she's so this or whatever. She was kind of just like whatever. And I just thought she was the coolest person on the planet. And from that day forward, it was like, I want that. I can do that too, So, and that's what I just want for when we're doing commercials these women, these young girls get to see, that this is possible, because a lot of women are intimidated by cars, car dealerships, all of it.
Yeah.
So the mechanic, all of it. So, I think it's important to just be, even just posing there and just showing how strong you felt in that moment.
Yeah.
That's the selling point.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
can you put that picture back up? Because how do you guys know? Like, here's a question. I don't understand why Porsche, like, let's say Chevrolet, IROC, here's a 2021 IROC, here's a 2022 IROC. But Porsche makes so many different models of the 911. Do we know why?
They're German,
Like, why? Because it drives me crazy. Like, I'm trying to learn, like, what model of 911 Carrera is this? Do we know? How can you tell?
Sometimes you can
992.
tell. Yeah, but you can't really tell unless you see the badge on
back.
some
Yeah.
of them. Yeah,
the back and the front
So,
and everything.
yeah.
I mean, I was just curious,
Like it could be a GTS because the body itself is the same. It could be an S, a GTS, or whatever. If it's a turbo, you'll see different things. In
The
the.
libbing on the back was just 911 Carrera.
Okay, so it's just Carrera.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Carrera, like, is it 962? Like, I don't
It's a
understand those numbers.
it's not a 962 because that's a race car.
Okay, see? So
You'll learn all the
yeah,
numbers. There's
yeah.
so many numbers, and I thought I knew them all, and then there was way more.
And then they add on a point too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, more,
To complicate it even more, they
So
throw
what
some
is
more
the
numbers
purpose
in
of
there.
that, Martina?
Of the different numbers.
Yeah, or like the point, and then, it's so specific.
Well, it's related to time, right? It's related to the model as well as the time.
Okay.
But what I wanted to mention about the different models and going to the racetrack is, so when you go to the racetrack, you're not comparing, let's say, you're not driving in the same class if you bring a GT3 RS. It's going to be a different class if you're in a 911, if you're in a 911S,
Okay.
a GTS, like each has a different horsepower and weight ratio and all that stuff. But so you're being compared apples to apples when you go. So I think that's something important that people don't realize. And they say, oh, that person's going to be so much faster if they're in a GT3 versus like a 911, but they're going to be in separate classes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That helps. That definitely helps.
But yeah, the point too is just they've made modifications to make it faster. Maybe they've changed the suspension a little bit. So you might not be able to see that the differences, and sometimes it might just be something visual that might be slight. But usually you can't really tell the difference between a 1 and 2.
Right.
And
And it's also a generational thing. So 997 is a 2009, but it was the second generation of the 997 with improvements.
And it had physical. You can tell a 997-2 over a 997-1.
Oh,
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So
You'll
what's,
learn.
What's this one, Brenda?
Vanessa took that photo, and we were at Pecla. Is that how you say it? P-E-C-L-A. That was my first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. It was just exciting to be there, and we wanted to start off the year right and, go there and be inspired, and I was just excited to be around cool cars. Yep, there's my first time in a simulator at Porsche, just having a good time and driving and trying to send it and learn. I was driving the Spa, is it Spa track? Yeah, I was driving the track from Spa, and yeah.
So
just having a-
curious, if our race car driver, have you been in one of these simulators, Martina?
Oh, yeah.
How do you rate the experience compared to reality?
It's pretty good. So
Pretty good, huh?
when I was asked to drive in the Celine, I hadn't gone to a lot of the East Coast tracks that we were going to drive. So I went to Pecla and almost every day went and put my suit on and my helmet and, sort of real life simulation. It's amazing to learn new tracks, and you feel like you've actually been there when you go. So when I got to Watkins Glen or Road America or Portland, I was like, wow, it feels like I've been here.
Oh, interesting.
But there are things about the simulator that are completely not reality based. So what I suggest to people is if you drive a simulator 5 days before you go racing, just stop. Because there are so many things you can do on the simulator that don't translate well, and your real car is not going to like it. But the funny story with Pecla is one Monday, they're closed on Mondays, I went, and this was the summer, and I was preparing for Watkins Glen, and they were closed. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I need the simulator. So I looked on Craigslist at the time. I drove to Burbank. Somebody had a simulator. I bought it, and then I practiced at home from then on.
Wow.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That's cool. Wow. Okay. And then
Could we fit a simulator in our garage, do you think?
more money, Beth. More money.
That's
Get rid of
another
your pool
conversation.
table, right, CJ?
What's the
Or the
story
pool
of this
table.
car, Brenda?
So that car was my first Porsche that I ever drove. And I started driving that car in 2021. And it wasn't mine, it was a friend's. And I would rent it for like a month at a time. And I was like, I need a Porsche in my life. And that is like the beginning of my journey of independence and strength and knowing I can do anything. Like that car just helped me realize that I am not living up to my potential and that I can do more in this life and I have more to offer, more to share, more to inspire. And that car was literally an extension of me. It was, and everybody that drove with me in that car said, this car is so you. It had the red oxblood stripes and it was a GTS. So it sounded great.
It has that great kind of that. Whoa!
Yes.
I don't know how to. I have to do the sounds. I apologize.
The funny thing is the kid whose dad owned the car. He would come pick it up. He'd drop it off. He'd pick it up, and every time that he, like the first year, literally, he'd pick it up and he'd drive away, and he could make this cool sound with the car that I could never do, like da-da, the reverb, whatever. And I asked him, he goes, "Oh, you mean
Sport
this
Plus.
button?"
Yeah.
A year I drove the car
That's pretty funny.
and didn't know what that meant.
Oh, that's funny.
Put
And
it
I was
in-
so pissed. I'm like, well, I just got to drive it more. But that car was totaled.
That was
I
the
was
one.
driving it. Yeah, I was driving it, and someone hit me, and I was on my way to return the car to him.
Oh.
Like 2 hours away from returning, and had it for a full 30 days because my Jeep was in the shop. And this lady was texting, and she hit me in the back like a cop does when he pits you. The car went in a circle on the on-ramp at 5 o'clock downtown LA traffic. Nothing happened to me at all. I called my friend who owns the car, and he goes, "I don't care about the car. Are you okay? That's all we care about.
Wow.
We'll send the tow truck. We own a tow truck." Well, he had a fleet of cars. "We'll send you the tow truck." Tow truck came. I got to their house. The dad was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" He didn't even look at the car. He was like, making sure you're okay. I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm so sorry." He goes, "Happens all the time. You have insurance. We're not worried about it." Well, the girl didn't have insurance, nothing, so my insurance paid for it. But it actually bonded us. That family and I became very good friends, and it's a learning experience. So they were part of my intro to Porsche and the love of it.
And speaking of colors, I like that. Is it like a graphite gray?
I think they call it anthrite gray.
Yeah, I think that's
something
like that.
that.
It's a
What do
nice
they call
color.
it, Laura?
Anthracite.
Thank you.
Anthracite?
Yeah.
Pretty car.
Yeah, and it was a convertible, and I swear to God, I lost weight because of that car because I just wanted to be at the beach with and watching the sun come up and top down. I didn't care if it was cold. I just wanted the sun. I wanted the vibe.
And you wouldn't eat in it.
No.
No French fries dropping. In
I would go to Malibu and go in and get my pokey, and I just was just driving, looking for friends to take with me all the time, and so I really miss the convertible, but I do think maybe the next one will be a convertible. I just don't know.
So this brings up a good point. This is a good juncture because you guys are show 38. So you're the 38th podcast we've done, and we have like 270 clips up and so on with all the reels and shorts and everything. And we've had mostly guys in here, but a good amount of women. I feel like we've represented women pretty well. Would
I
you say,
agree.
Beth?
Yes.
We love having women in. We love doing women panel shows and so on. Brenda was part of another women panel that we did that wasn't Porsche-centric. It was women-centric. But one thing that I noticed hanging out with Brenda all day and hanging with Dilun and so on is women, the way they relate to their Porsches is very different how guys relate to their cars. And I just wondered if you could
Like
maybe
how?
touch on that psychologically.
Like, what do you mean? What
Well,
did you observe?
I've heard a lot. I've just heard a lot of things with all of you about life change, about freedom, about and not that guys don't feel these things, but they don't express it in that way. With guys, it's all about specs and engines and transmissions and
That is true.
horsepower.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
and what
It's
I
emotion
hear,
for us,
what I
yeah.
hear from the ladies is the emotion, and I'm kind of fascinated
Yes.
by that, the way that you relate to a car, you know, 4 wheels, an engine, a body, is so different than how guys relate to it. And I just wondered, I wanted to get your take on that, because you've revealed some really personal things here,
Yeah.
Martina in particular, Brenda also, but all of you really, about, you know, your car means it's an emotional linchpin for your life. It's not just a thing. And, you know, I heard totaled. It's kind of scary. It's like, you know, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get a Porsche someday, but I might get totaled because these ladies are telling me their Porsches get totaled. So
It's exciting.
through no fault of their own.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Well, Beth,
'cause
you were going to.
We always get
Were
that.
you going to expound on that?
No, I was thinking along the same lines, and he was very eloquent the way he's expressing it. And I felt in some ways maybe men drive these cars more for status. And I don't get that from any of you.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's very organic is what I'm getting.
It's emotion. There is like not status, but you feel like a badass. You feel like a badass. You know, there's something. But maybe it's because it hasn't been marketed to us, so it is rare. So when I drove up to a car meet or whatever meetup, I actually drove up one time in the 930. I got there all by myself, and this guy said, "Okay, we want you to back up and go over there by the engine area, whatever." And he goes, "Do you need me to help you back it up?"
Ooh.
And I said,
Insulting.
"Well, no." I just
Damn.
go, "I got here all by myself. I think I got it." You know. But it's like here I drove up in the car. You
Yeah.
know, like he thought I couldn't throw it in reverse.
Wow.
I was like, but I mean, it's because it is rare. You know, it's not like a lot of people. Some people are like, "Oh my gosh, there's 2 of you driving," and you know, and it's people who aren't in the car community. 'Cause there is. In California, we're pretty lucky because the women they're really integrated in, and the men really accept us in, which is really nice. But there are countries where they're like, there's only like 1 girl at every car
Oh, yeah.
thing, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
and so it is. California specifically, there's a lot more women
Yeah.
with Porsches and stuff.
For sure.
But this is why to me it's like in my lifetime I want to see that change. Like the racing, seeing women racing, and also seeing, like, you know, I always bring up F1 Academy, but F1 Academy, some people have their downs about it. Oh, well, they're not even going to be able to compete with the boys because of this. Whatever. The girls are being able to see women behind the wheel, and that's inspiring to young girls. And so it just it is making it normal instead of this anomaly.
Instead of a novelty,
Yeah.
right? Oh, it's a woman driving a Porsche. Wow. It's like,
Yeah. And just seeing us in them, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had men scream at me when I had my 911. This one guy was just screaming and he would not let me merge in, and I was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're gonna run me off the road?" And he's screaming like, "You bitch!" Like, and I was, and he's flipping me off in front of his
Jeez.
wife's face like
Wow.
this, and I was like, I just slowed up and I go, "That's your dude."
Yeah, right.
And she's
right.
like,
Yep.
you know, and but men do. They'll say things like, and I've said this on other podcasts, but it's like they'll say things like, "You're not that pretty," you know.
Wow.
Jeez.
And I'm
Crazy.
like, I mean,
And do you
day-
think they're saying this because
day I
you're
was
in a
not very
911 or?
Wow.
I think they're
well,
jealous.
they think you think you're cool or something like that.
my
Even one of my
God.
friends in my neighborhood, when he first met me, he goes, "Oh yeah, you're always just driving like you're real cool through the neighborhood." And I go, "Or I'm
Wow.
just driving." Like I
Right,
don't.
right.
Right.
Like, what's my? I go, "Do I look like a bitch?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, you look like." I go, "Like what? Like what does my face look like in pensive thought?" But I
Right.
now I know I have resting bitch face.
That's
Yeah.
I know you don't. That's insane that somebody puts their whatever's going on in their mind on you while you're driving. That's
and it happens
crazy.
a lot. It happens a lot. Like it's really weird to me that, and even people that they don't want to say that they have a certain car. Guys, even like there's a guy who works with my boyfriend, and he got a Cayman R. And he didn't want anyone to know. I go, first of all, it's a $37,000 car because it was used at the time when he got it. And I said, some Hondas are more expensive than that. So you shouldn't feel bad that you're driving this car that was your dream car.
Right.
Yeah.
And you should be proud of it, you know, and you've worked really hard in your life and that you deserve it. And he's a
Yes.
guy. And I just don't feel like it should be inspirational. It should be
Right.
shared.
Yes.
If my friends get a better car than me, I'm like, I've got a better car now. This is amazing. If she's got a race car, I get to go in a race car, you know?
Right.
You bring up a really good point, and I've experienced, even though I'm not a car guy, I have experienced this in my life. And for me, it was even more innocuous. It was a BMW 325.
Yeah.
I had a Camry. I was making a little bit of money, just a little bit, not much. and said, I used to sell BMWs back in the 80s, so I knew I knew old BMWs like CJ era BMWs, 2002s. I knew those cars. I loved the old BMWs. They were great cars. And I bought the car, and I drove it, and I was absolutely amazed at people's perception of me. Overnight, I was rich, and I was an asshole.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was just like, what is going on? Because I'm not that into cars. So now I know. Now it's like, oh, BMW driver dicks, right? That's
Yeah.
the perception. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's true, but
We've moved that
that's
to Tesla, if you don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
no, I
we
agree.
have. Yes,
Agreed.
yes.
Moved on to Tesla for
I
sure.
do.
I hate to say,
I
like,
do have
guys
a
in
weird
their
judgment on
30s.
Teslas.
For sure.
Teslas, ugh.
Guys in their
I'm with
30s?
you.
Guys in their 30s, I find to be the most aggressive and sorry,
And
and
the
rude in
BMWs.
BMWs and Teslas.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, Teslas they just don't know what they're doing. They've made a bad choice to start. Now they're,
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that when I used to pick up my kids from elementary or middle school or high school in the Porsche or the GT3 RS, they loved it. And the kids, especially the elementary school, girls would say, "Mommy, that's a girl." And the boys, and it was just,
Yeah.
it's another way of saying, you can do this as well.
Yes.
Right.
Girl or boy.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how people will judge you based off the car you drive, which I find insane. It's like, I would never judge anyone based off the car that they drive. Even a Tesla, even a junker. Gabe, who's our executive producer, who's the biggest car guy in the world, he has a Tesla. And we give him a lot of shit about it.
But it's
We give
more,
him-
it's more of the way they drive them
Yeah.
and how they cut you off.
But
or
it's
how
but
they,
it's good
that
with
sort of
us. It's good naturedly because we
Oh,
love
yeah,
Gabe.
with
He's a great
Gabe,
guy.
yes,
It's just we
absolutely.
get to make fun of him because he has a Tesla. Like I make fun of myself because I have a Corolla. It's like I drive a vacuum cleaner. It's not even a car. It's an appliance.
I took a
But-
video on the way here saying there was 2 Teslas that I just passed in the fast lane going like 61 mile an hour. And I got I was like, this is the third one. I got to get it. And then there was another Tesla in front of it. And I was like, I hate them. They're terrible. And the Cybertruck, don't get me started.
Oh, yes, that's another show.
That's a show.
Controversy.
That's a show.
We're going to go way off Porsche here.
Does anybody like those? I've never heard one positive comment
I
about
have seen
those.
people like them, and they're terrible. They're terrible, terrible cars.
We
They're not
have
even cars.
we have a friend of the show now, Peter Kaplan, who is a fine art photographer, who you will be hearing about because we're going to be, now that you're a guest of West of Tulsa, you're going to be invited to a very special event we're going to have, which is a gallery showing. But in his portfolio, he shot the inventor of the Cybertruck, who lives up in Montecito, right here across the street.
It's
He
black.
shot-
by
it's
the way.
black.
It's black.
He shot some really cool photos of it, and it was really interesting hearing his take on it because he's a car guy, but he's kind of like me. He's not hardcore. He's not like him, and not like Gabe, and not like some of our other friends of the show who are like maniacs with cars. And it's really interesting how people perceive that car because I'm with you. I see those things driving down the freeway, and I just think they're the
Giant
dumbest looking
trash
thing I've
cans.
ever
Yeah.
seen. But there's some cool technology in them, and blah blah blah. And
They're just dangerous too because, like, if you drive so have them drive a Taycan and then get it back into any Tesla.
Yeah.
And the technology, it's a technology company. It's
Yeah.
not a car company. It's not really supposed to be on the road.
It's like a
I don't know what-
software company, right?
It's like and
Yeah.
there's a lot of issues. Like there's people who have burned up in them because they can't open the door. There's just there's no
Right.
safety features,
Right.
So. But in the DOT, they don't even have to really do all the same DOT stuff. I learned that I had a lunch with the Haggertys, and there was journalists, and they were all talking about how unsafe they are. And now we when we do Uber, we take the green Uber. It's the same price, whatever. So we usually get like a Tesla instead of a Corolla. Sorry.
No insult taken, not at all.
But when you get in and close the door, everything is just like, I think, it's not, it's just, and then you get in and, when I drove the Taycan, I got in the same day to a Tesla, and I was just like, the differences was just so crazy. And so when people put down electric cars, I'm like, you haven't driven a Taycan, or they're like, oh, it's a toaster. I'm like, have you driven one? Just drive one.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It is a great car, but there's a huge price difference between a Tesla and a Taycan.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
We had
Can't
very
forget
good
about
point.
that,
That's
right?
Yeah, there
That's
is
right.
there is that.
We had another young lady on the show who was sitting in your seat, Martina. She's 20 years old, Her name is Vivian Topaz. She's a badass.
Yeah.
She's 20 years old, and she knows how to rebuild Miatas from scratch. She's doing, what was it, an SR20 swap into
Yeah.
her black and white Miata. She's a badass. But she was saying in your seat the exact same thing, like, I hate EVs, but man, that Taycan, that's pretty badass. So.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're expensive for a reason, and they are safer, and
Yeah.
they, you know,
It's a beautiful car.
The technology is so next level. Like I went to the to Atlanta to view the Taycan Turbo GT, and I got on the track with Jörg Bergmeister, who is a Porsche development driver, and also a race car driver, and it was the scariest.
Was it terrifying?
Although I have to say, because it's so analog with you, like you feel every skip, jump, bump. You know, the Taycan was just like a rocket ship, and it was so fast that my solar plexus was like I felt like I was going to throw up.
Wow.
Like he launched it, and it was. You would love that, like to
Do you
go with
think
a
you were-
race car driver.
Do you think you were pulling G's?
Yes.
You probably were.
Sounds like it.
No, it's 0 to 60 in 2.1 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
And
That,
you feel
that sounds amazing.
those 2 seconds are really rough. Oh
The 911 that I drove, and that green one, it had a G-force indicator on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn how to do all that. Like you said, you get in, and I'm like, this is way different than the Boxster.
Because you didn't turn the knob, and then
I'm like, I didn't take the time to read or
Yeah.
anything, and I'm like, what? So yeah.
Yeah. When you start pulling G's, your brain does different things too. People don't
Yeah.
realize when you're pulling G's, it's pulling blood out of your
Yeah.
head or pulling it out of certain parts of your body.
there's a video of me, and my hair is like, it's just floating, because, and my foot comes up, and it's just filmed the whole thing, and he's cracking up. He felt like he was, it was totally fine, but I just to feel that speed, and also it's so quiet, and it's an incredible car. I can't
So
say
thumbs up on the Taycan from this crowd.
enough. Oh yeah.
But Taycan is fast enough, and then you put turbo, GTS,
which is
and
not
you-
a real turbo, which people get really upset about because there's no real turbo,
Right, because
but
yeah.
but the turbo GT is basically
all-
a rocket ship.
All they're saying is it's faster than the other one. It's,
Yeah.
It's this
Yeah.
one's faster than just the base one.
Our
or
little
whatever it
brains
is.
can
Yeah.
handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's pretty fast.
Dylan, when did you get into Porsches?
So I got into Porsches during the pandemic, actually. Yeah. So in 2020, when everybody started working from home, and I was like, okay, now everybody's working from home. We've got more free time. What are we going to do? And actually, the first thing I did was looking up what modifications I'm going to do. And then
Wow.
and then the first event I joined PCA right away. I said, I want to get into it. I want to do Porsche things, meet other people. Then I went to an autocross event at the Pocono Raceway. That's where we were living on the East Coast. And my fiance is also really into cars. He has a Subaru STI Type RA, which is one of the 500s that were made. And we went together, very similar to Martina's experience and story. And after the autocross, he was like, hey, I saw this really cool SCCA event with Porsche Club of America that they're doing it at New Jersey Motor Sports Park, the Lightning Course. Do you want to go? I was like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? So I got my helmet. I tried on his helmet first, and we got a helmet on the website for me, and we went. So that's why when we were talking about, oh, do you work on your cars? I was like, I prefer not to. I don't do manual labor, and my fiance is my pit crew, so he'll check my tire pressures. He'll check everything. And that was super fun on the New Jersey Motor Sports Park Lightning Course. And we went back there again, and then we went back to the Pocono Raceway to race more until we moved here. Haven't had a chance to check out the racetracks, but it's definitely on my list. Would love to get on the racetracks.
I love how she's like thinking modifications before
I know, right off the
right
bat.
off the
Yep.
bat. How
I
to
would
make
love
it
it
faster.
too.
I love the loud the louder, the better.
And where was this shot at?
This was at New Jersey Motorsports Park, the Lightning course.
Okay.
So I'm in the front. Behind me was my fiance. He was driving his Subaru.
Oh, that's a Subaru.
STI Type RA. And we were in the novice group. I mean, he shouldn't be in the novice group, but he was being nice, trying to, support me and guide me and teach me the lines on the racetrack. And surprise, I'm not trying to show off in front of a championship race car driver or anything like that. But that was my second time on the racetrack, and I timed in line with people that were in the intermediate group.
Oh,
Great.
It's impressive.
Cool.
Very
Yeah.
good.
So,
Those modifications paid off.
Yeah.
so yeah, that was in New Jersey, second time. And behind me was my fiance.
Wow.
And
That's
then
great.
tell us about this. I'm curious what's going on here.
Okay, so this was the winter before we moved here from Philadelphia. And my fiance, Michael, we were actually transporting his car, not pictured here. He has a Gen 2 Ford Lightning that's fully modded, cammed, makes about 700 horsepower to the wheels that he built with his father in their garage. And when we were talking about, okay, yeah, women are more emotional with cars, and it's actually his story too, and he still has that car today, the Lightning, and it's super emotional for him as well because they've spent hours building that Lightning. And so we were transporting that car, and when the driver pulled up to the parking lot, I was like, wow, is that a GT3? And it's a 991.1, which is a 2015 GT3 in orange, red. And I was like, this would be my dream car. At that point, I've always liked newer cars, like the newer GT3s, GT3 RS. They just look so techy to me, like the wings, But that's the point when I was like, I actually like the older GT3s, like the wings, they just hit different. So I was like, I have to take a picture in front of this car, and when we were looking at the GT3 earlier this month, it was that's the style we were looking at.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
They're pieces of art, aren't they? They're pieces of art.
I
sure.
think we could say
Aren't they?
Porsches are for sure.
They are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of emotion too, yeah, my boyfriend, I caught him sitting, just having a drink, staring at the cars. So
Yes.
I mean, they're just as emotional. They might not talk about it in the ways
Yeah.
that we do, but yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, they express
he's
it differently, for
he's
sure.
Like, can you believe this? Like when I got my 997, it was next to the 930, and he's like, look at this. This is really great. This is what I want is, and I'm, he is as emotional as we are.
I agree with you. And my husband is as well, who
Yeah.
surprised me last
Yeah.
Christmas with my grandmother's 1961 Corvair, which is pictured here up in the top. Sorry to do that to you.
That's okay.
The cream right there. But anyway, and that was really emotional, and all of the things that went behind. And there's more.
The hard
Yeah.
part was keeping it a secret.
Yeah.
And we won't
That,
go
that
in.
was 6 months of
Subterfuge.
fibs every now and then. Yeah, a few fibs
Subterfuge,
thrown in
yes.
there, but
Yeah.
And all
Yes.
the other cars over the years with your father and your grandfather. And there's a lot of emotion tied
Yeah.
into it, for sure.
I saw a quote on Instagram recently that goes with what we're saying, is that Porsche doesn't sell cars. They sell dreams.
yeah.
And I really think, for me, I can speak that 100%.
Have you seen the commercial with the little boy?
Yeah.
I just saw that the other day.
Isn't that
That's
it's a
the one I'm
great,
talking
Great,
I
great
put, I put it
commercial.
on my
Great
Instagram
commercial.
because it was.
Yeah.
I was like, that is
a great commercial.
So and they say we don't sell cars, we sell dreams.
Yeah, yeah. So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, little boy is like, he's in his room and he looks out, he sees a Porsche. And then you see him riding his bike. He shows up at the Porsche dealership, walks in, and he says, do you have any Porsches or 911s?
He said, "Where's the 911?"
Where's the 911? That's what he says. And so the salesman kind of looks at him and goes, yeah, right over here. Sits in it. You can tell the moment where he goes, yep, I'm getting one. Then he gets out and he goes, do you have a business card? And the salesman gives him a business card and he goes, I'll see you in 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a
so
cute
And it's a
spot.
great
It's
spot.
the
Really good.
best.
Yeah, it's a really good spot.
It's awesome.
But that plays right into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah.
Porsche sells dreams, not cars.
My green car was used for a commercial that was a spec commercial, the same thing. It was a little girl though, and she was playing with the little car, and the dad pulls up, and then the next thing you know, there I don't know how it goes, but basically, that's like back in time, and she's a little girl, and she's playing with cars, and then they meet up in Angeles Crest actually, and they pull in their two Porsches, and one's the old one the dad had, and then and they had to age the dad and do the whole thing in my car, but
I think I have seen that one.
it's a spec commercial, so I don't know if you have, but I have put it on mine.
Okay.
So maybe you did see it, but
There might be something out there similar, maybe.
yeah, probably a
That
lot.
sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Subaru has something. I mean,
yeah.
cars have
Maybe,
these
yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
emotionally
Yeah.
impactful.
It was actually a
commercials.
race car, a Porsche race car driver too. I didn't know her until after, but she's also a race car driver. But so it was kind of cool because
Wow.
they were having fun with her up on Angeles Crest as well. So
Awesome.
So I have a question. What's next? Is anybody buying any other cars soon?
Everybody looked at you. over there.
So we have been looking, and I personally have been looking for a 993 Targa, preferably because I just love the older Targa, the way they look. And the crazy thing is, all the 993s I have been looking, they've gone up in value like crazy. I've seen some 993s, not even turbo, they're going for $300,000.
Wow.
Jeez.
Wow.
And so, I'm keeping my eyes open. I'm not buying a $300,000 993 right now. But also we've been looking for a 991 GT3. So we could both have Porsches going to the racetracks together.
Fun.
Very nice.
So a couple options.
Laura, anything new on the horizon? Well, you get cars from Porsche. You don't need to buy a car, right? You get to drive the new stuff.
yeah, it's funny because I'm pretty. I'm at the stage of my life now. I'm like, I just want to travel.
You got the travel bug.
Yeah, it's really bad. Like I feel a fish out of water if I'm back home. I really.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm trying to go to Italy again. In a couple of weeks, I'll be there. I want to move there part time. Live in Europe. Just kind of going back and forth. So I'm looking for a garage with like a bed. And then we'll just come back and visit when we have to.
A garage with a bed.
That's the way to do
it.
Yep.
And then Martina, how about you?
Yeah,
You're satisfied with the cars you have now?
Yeah. And Dwayne's actually working on one which probably will be ready December.
Mm-hmm.
So he's modifying and doing a lot of aerodynamics on a twin turbo GT2 based race car. So that's always fun to watch him
Yeah.
see the progress on that car.
You'll get to drive that car, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. He might let you.
I love it.
And then CJ.
No.
Any new cars on the horizon?
I like how he looks at
Nope.
Beth.
Not even thinking about it.
We have a few cars right now, Dan.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I will say this though. There is one Porsche that caught my eye, and I'm going to get off the 911s for a moment.
All right.
Does anybody know much about 968s?
Yes.
What do you think of them?
I think they're kind of weird looking, but
Are those the slant
you can still
nose?
get them for
I was going to say, what is a 968? I have no
like
idea.
So
What is
968
that?
would be the progression from the 924 to the 944 to the 968.
Oh, what year
So,
was that car?
Early 90s, so it'd be a 90 to
And then- and
94, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
And then they
maybe, yeah.
discontinued it in
Yep.
the 90s?
Yep.
Okay.
It's weird because I don't think there's a whole lot of them.
There aren't.
And so I feel like you should just buy one anyway because it will go up.
Exactly.
I think the same thing.
Yeah.
Good
So
investment.
the one I spotted, it's a 93, has 80,000 original miles on it. And I call up two buddies of mine, one from Schneider Auto House in Santa Barbara. So Joe Schneider and then Henry Hank said, hey, what do you guys know about the 968s? And they're both instantly said, great car.
Really?
Great car. And then Joe said, it's awesome for the track.
Really?
I'm like, wow.
Interesting.
And so I it's one of those cars you just kind of look over. You just don't really think about it, especially now that it's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Well, older than that.
It's an overlooked car. As they
Overlook
say,
car.
Right?
It's a 4-cylinder turbo, I believe. But
Probably the same engine,
207
same engine as the 944, right?
Well, it's been bumped up quite a bit from, from
really?
the 944, but
Okay.
it's 260 horsepower, 250 horsepower.
I feel like they're
Four-cylinder.
so ugly that they're cute again.
I don't know. I get it. I get it.
You know what I mean? Like,
Crocs.
I think I'm very unpopular opinion. I think the Mille is an ugly car, but it became beautiful. And now we see him, and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
beautiful.
a car that has eyelashes.
Yeah, I know, it looks like eyelashes. Yeah.
So no, I'm not even thinking about another car. So okay,
Ju-
that
just-
settles that
Except for
right
the
there.
968.
Just out of curiosity, what does that 968 sell for?
Yeah.
It's listed right now at 29,000.
Yeah, you,
Okay, so
you
it's-
can get
Okay,
it for
it's a big-
nothing.
So
yeah.
it's reasonable.
Really?
Yeah,
And
it's
they're
not an
not
expensive
common,
car.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm still not thinking about it. Not even thinking
Okay.
about it.
We live above a creek and we have to move our cars every other week. And I'm the one who ends up driving cars trying to find spot. We don't need another car right now.
She'd have to drive the 968 out of the way so it wouldn't flood
I
and
would
float
have to.
away.
That's
Now, I know Beth for a while. We were pretty hot on Mercedes wagons, weren't we,
I
Beth?
still love it. I have the steering wheel fetish for the beautiful old Mercedes.
When we went to that Mercedes
Yeah,
thing
that
at
was
Santa
really
Monica
cool.
Pier, I could
Yep.
see the twinkle in your eye. You were just like,
Yeah.
oh. We went to a really interesting thing, and it was a Mercedes wagon club, kind of, with Mercedes wagon owners from all over the country that were going to caravan from Santa Monica Pier to Death Valley.
Wow.
So, and they had, I think, 31 or so, 31
about right.
Mercedes
It was a
300
great
TD
turnout.
wagons,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. And a producer on our show, a guest on our, not a guest, a member of our show, has two of them. I think Helm has two Mercedes wagons, and I got to say, Beth and I have both been like complete opposite of a Porsche. I mean, we're talking a tugboat, but I love diesels. I'm a diesel guy. I love diesels, and so.
It was fun.
So you're still hot for a Mercedes wagon, or you've cooled off?
Well, I've cooled off a little bit.
Okay.
Because we live near a creek. So
Well, you'd have to get rid of the Corvair
Creek.
probably to
my
justify
God. We
getting.
might have to get rid of the Honda Odyssey that our daughter spilled a Frappuccino in 3
Yeah,
years
yeah.
ago, and it's still, it's
So
disgusting.
nothing on the horizon.
Not
for
right
Beth.
now. No.
Okay.
No.
And then Brenda, which I already know the answer to this, but we're
Yeah,
going to
I'm
ask you
just
anyway.
looking. I don't know what's next.
I've never heard such indecision, because we sat down at her place and I interviewed her, and we talked about this for like 20 minutes of like GT2, GT3, race car, street car, convertible, blah, and it's like, so.
I know it'll be manual.
Oh, okay. There you go. I was
Okay.
going to say, what's
I
the one
know
thing
it'll be
that you-
manual.
Are you,
because
are
I
you still?
miss that.
Are
I
you
love
still at,
manuals
it
too.
must be a convertible? Are you still on that?
No, I don't know. It's a feeling when it's emotional for me.
Is there any other things that we didn't cover that you guys would like to cover or bring up? I mean, I think we had a really good exploration of women and Porsche and the mystique of Porsche and all that stuff.
anybody want to talk about Peugeot?
Citroen?
No.
Citroen?
No, Citroen?
We had a
No.
Citroen guy on a few weeks ago. No, it's-
I do.
Okay.
What is the deal with who is not making? Are we not doing gas anymore in certain, combustion
it's
engines?
going away.
Like,
It's going
it's
away.
completely going
Yeah.
away.
Oh, ICE
Right?
engine.
Yeah.
I think we're going to still have our cars. I don't know how it's going to go, but I mean, people are fighting it all the way, and it's coming. That is just what's happening.
I think it's going to be an age out, personally. It's
Yeah.
like all the people who are the most passionate about internal combustion cars are getting on in years, other than young people that are into them. But, if you look at that in the grand plan and so on, I mean, we're not giving up our ICE cars. I mean,
Yeah,
from
no.
my cold dead hands, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, we're going to age out, and then it's going to be, everything will be electric.
They
it
felt
seems
that way
like.
about the horse and buggy going.
That's
to
right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So that's how I kind of like look at it. Like, it seems ridiculous. Like, oh my gosh, we're not gonna. Why would we do that? But
Yeah. Well, they keep pushing, hydrogen and ammonia engines. Toyota, I see the headlines every day. Toyota has some new kind of combustion
Porsche has
engine.
a good fuel too. Yeah.
But I know I wrote some white papers and stuff on hydrogen. Like, hydrogen cars are never going to happen unless they can break the laws of physics to make hydrogen fuel. It's never going to happen. It's not economically viable at all. Not even close.
Well, even I learned the other day that the solar power, like people, when they give you the solar power for your house, it's not powering your house. It's going to a grid.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
right.
So
And
I
then
didn't
storage.
know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going to be, we will have enough power and all that. But I think people, I mean, it's becoming a political thing too. So I don't want to talk about that. But
Yeah.
it is the way of the future. That's what's going to happen.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah.
And horse and buggy's not gone either. Go to Central Park.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
guess
Go to,
there
go
you
to
go.
New York.
Still
and
around.
Lancaster County,
Yeah, that's
Pennsylvania.
it. Yep, that's
Yeah.
right. They're still around.
Ask the Amish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Now I think we covered it.
All right.
Did we cover everything?
Well, I wanted to thank all of
Yeah.
you guys for making the drive. It was a crazy drive, and now you're probably going to have an even crazier drive going home. So we really appreciate all of you coming on to the show. You are now friends of West of Tulsa, so we hope you will come back. We'd love to have any combination of you back again. It's been really interesting and great having you here, and we just wanted to thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you
you for
so
having
much.
us.
Thank you.
This was really fun.
So do I wrap this up now?
Yeah,
Is
you can
telling
wrap
me?
it up.
All right.
You
This
can
is,
wrap it
by
up.
the way, this is going to be a 10-parter.
Right?
2 hours and 12 minutes.
Is that
I'm
how long it
impressed.
was? Wow, has it
2:12.
been?
Holy
That's right.
cow.
Wow.
2
That's a
hours.
record, by the way, by far a record.
No,
Yeah.
really? Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're
yeah.
an hour over our record.
We've been an hour and a
Isn't that
half,
right?
I think.
Have we?
We've been an hour and a half, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But I knew it was going to go long because we have all these amazing women who have all these amazing
Great
stories,
stories.
to talk
Yeah.
about.
Absolutely.
And Beth just wouldn't
Oh,
stop
yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say. I'm just here again for the ride. And I am living vicariously through all of you, truly.
She just moves cars around.
Oh, that was my one final point. Is that the 911 we've got the only time it ever looks better? is when
That's
she's
right.
driving.
Of course.
Which I love driving. I do.
Yeah, it's a fun car.
God forbid I scratch it. Okay.
Is it a manual? Is it a
It's a
manual?
manual.
It is, yeah. It's so fun to drive.
So now that I made my points, my beautiful wife, we're going to wrap this up. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us and
Thank
joining us
you.
in West of Tulsa. We appreciate it. Go to our website again, westoftulsa.com. Go to the tip line page, fill it out. We would love to have you here in studio. Please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and we will see you west of Tulsa.